All right, beautiful people, man. I'm trying to make sure my sound and everything is good. That's the only reason why I'm wearing the headphones. I really don't have no purpose. All right, beautiful people, man. Yeah, y'all hear me talking back at me. Checking from my phone, just making sure everything look good. But we gonna get into it, man. Without further ado, good morning, beautiful people. Good afternoon. Good evening. It doesn't matter what time it is. Just know that today is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Why? Because as always, God is good and He's good all the time. Duh. Okay? Just a little housekeeping before we get going. Just before, so we could do some little housekeeping, okay? So first up, right, I want to tell you all about the book that we just finished. And if you motherfucking did not tag along with us, but you would like to catch up with it, then by all means, get on this motherfucking education board and ride this train of knowledge, man, because we just finished this bad boy right here. Stamped from the beginning. I got motherfucking Kendi X Ibram on the mind. I just finished motherfucking Blood at the Root, A Racial Cleansing in America by Patrick Phillips. Just finished this read along, Y'all could find the first, I want to say like 15, maybe 16 chapters in the videos. And I think it's like the last 2 or 3 maybe chapters is on live. I'm going to continue with the book readings on live because it's easier on the editing, especially because I have other channels to edit for. So, and like I told y'all before, this is not priority to me, for me. I love y'all. I really do. I love you. However, this don't pay my bills, and I like it like that. You know what I'm saying? This is a hobby. It's like playing basketball. When the homies hit me up and they like, T, let's go play basketball. And I got things to take care of. I want to be like, not today, another time. I treat my YouTube platform, my social media platforms like that, because I try not to be so indulged into social media, because I really feel like, sitting at these computers, sitting on your couch, scrolling through your phone, oh my God, endless scrolling and all that. Sitting here doing this all day, it literally hinders communication. Like, you end up sitting in seclusion, you're not exercising, using the words, your brain. So after some point, you kind of like dumb down in a bit, for lack of a better word. So that's why I don't take priority in this. This ain't my job. I ain't trying to get paid. You want to send a donation, God bless you. However, I ain't hurting for nothing. For the Bible says that God shall supply all of my needs according to His riches and glory, and He does, and He do. You see? So I'm good. Okay. But since we on that housekeeping, this is the next book that we're going to be reading. Now, I want to temporarily get on this real quick because I'm scheduled to read this book immediately preceding today's reading, which is this book. Yes, you see that right. Barack Obama and the Jim Crow Media, The Return of the Nigger Breakers by Ishmael Reed. Yes, y'all see that. Y'all see that. But, hold on, I'm over here trying to switch cameras. Y'all see that. But I feel like I need to talk about this because this is scheduled to be read right afterwards. And like I just told y'all, this is not my priority. I have basketball, boxing training at 3:30. I can't be there any later than 4 o'clock. And I say 4 o'clock because it's the rec center, bro. I'm on children's schedule, so as soon as they get out of school, which is roughly about 3 o'clock at the latest, 3:30, sometimes 4, depending on the school, the rec center is open to the children. Charles Murray, former light welterweight boxing, motherfucker professional who lives in Rochester. He trains at the rec center, and he's so kind to do it because he does it for free. And I'm trying to get in on a free class, so I had to buy by his schedule because it's from 3:30 to 5:30. Because that's when the rec center closed, 5:30. So I got to get there, right? So with that being said, I might not get to this one today, but I will get to it this week. If I don't get to reading this today, baby, don't charge my heart, charge my head, like my mama said. I'm going to read it either Lord's will tomorrow or Friday. Just bear with me because I don't get paid for this. And I'm not saying that spitefully. This is a hobby. All right. I ain't trying to stress myself out. I got a life over here. So while we still on housekeeping, yes, I want to encourage y'all to make sure you go follow my motherfucking channel, Tierra the Athlete. Here I will be posting all my athletic ventures from, all forms of sport. When I tell y'all I do everything, nigga, the only thing I don't do is golf, and it's just because mentally I find it boring. But everything else, man, racquetball, tennis, softball, motherfucking kickball, baseball, football, rugby, basketball, nigga, I run, I'll sprint, we could race, we could play hide and seek, not hide and go get it, but hide and seek. I'm very competitive. So, and this is my motto, man. I'm just a grown town boy. That's it. So make sure y'all, help a sister out. Give me some other freaking, subscriptions over there. Subscribe over there. Like a couple of things, comment on a couple of things. Support your sister. Like I said, all my sports endeavors will be over there. Even for the people who type in with me for like bowling and shooting pool, spades and all that. Fishing is going to be over there. You ain't going to see too much of that on this here platform because this here platform is basically for everything unsports related. Ideally, in a sense. Also, if you motherfucking looking to get into some podcasts, man, I got some interviews that I have I have conducted. I have some in the vault as well that I'm in the process of editing. This is why I'm doing these read-alongs motherfucking live now because Soul Sister over here, I don't have the video editing, juice with all the stuff that I got going on. So again, motherfucking, I just ask that y'all follow me, subscribe, be antithetical antagonist. I'm also on Spotify, help a sister out, support a sister. You gonna find all types of interviews here. I'm not the type of person, I don't interview, niche groups like celebrities and trauma victims and on this platform, I would interview the average Joe. You can find my motherfucking like local, street dweller, for lack of a better word, interviewed on here, telling us about their experiences and stuff like that. Because that's the goal. I got several, like I told you, interviews sitting up on my motherfucking, my hard drives, waiting to be edited. I'm just moving slow, y'all. So now that I done got the housekeeping out of the way, I thank y'all for y'all patience and bearing with me. Like I told y'all, Lord's will, if I don't get to motherfucking affirmative action around the world, an empirical study by Thomas Sowell, which has been highly requested for probably at least 5 years, mostly from the conservative white folk over there, been telling me to read it because y'all know how people are. They, as soon as they get somebody that be like, hey, that's a black man, he has very similar views to me, black person, I think you should listen to him because he could change your mind and you could think like us. That's why I feel like they be recommending them. But I'm the type of person, I don't mind stepping outside my comfort zone. So I went and bought with my monies a Thomas Sowell book, just like I paid for the Candace Owen Blackout book. But Lord knows I still ain't finished that book. It's hard to read when you coming off like Sambo. But without further ado, let's see where we're going to start because I started reading the foreword. They got the introduction and then it's the first chapter. Let me see how long the introduction is, y'all. Bear with me because I should have looked at this beforehand, but Let's see. How many pages we got here? 29 to 40. That's about 10 pages. 5, maybe 6 pages, front and back, 2, 3. I'm over here wasting time. I could just be reading. Oh, Jesus. I guess we're going to read the introduction because I feel like you can't really know about this book without the introduction. So, without further ado, babies, let's get into it. Okay, let's read. I'm going to have it on this camera angle because this one be timing out sometime. So, forgive me when y'all see me reach across. My camera be timing out. Actually, I'm about to push the button now so it don't do it no time soon. About to get all close and personal where y'all can see my mother freaking tight curls. You can see why I got shrinkage. But anyways, without further ado, we in the introduction, y'all. Bam! Again, Barack Obama and the Jim Crow media, the return of the Nigger Breakers. Nigger Breakers. By Ishmael Reed. Check the description if you don't know about Ishmael Reed. I have a motherfucking link to his website. I believe it's his website. That gives you some, background information on who Mr. Ishmael Reed is. I don't feel comfortable saying that man by his first name because that man is like 90 years old, damn near. Old enough to be my great uncle because I got some great aunts and uncles that as old as him, like 80 plus, But anyways, that link in the description below, you get all the information that you need pertaining to Mr. Ishmael Reed right there. And then it also gives you other, pieces of literature that he has constructed over time. So that way, if you want to read anything else outside of him, I'm definitely going to get some more of his books because I love me some Afro-Negro books, okay? I love them. Y'all should see my collection. One day I'm going to show y'all my book collection over there. It is ugly right now because my books is all over the place. And then, anyway, I'm rambling. Let's go because... What time is it, girl? Almost 12 o'clock. All right, we got to be there at 3. We got time. Definitely not getting to the affirmative action book tonight. We'll get to that tomorrow, y'all, because I ain't got squat to do but go to the gym in the motherfucking ortho appointment. So to God be the glory. Let's get go. Let's get into it. All right, introduction. So I'm assuming this is like a little... something that a person said, like a testimonial, a reaction. But it says a niche market could be defined as a component that gives your business power. A niche market allows you to define whom you are marketing to. When you know who you are marketing to, it's easy to determine where your marketing energy and dollars should be spent. Laura Lake, defining your niche market, a critical step in small business marketing. I guess that's some words of wisdom out there for fellow entrepreneurs out there. Anyways, let's continue. Many associate the term nigger breaker with the incidents recounted by Frederick Douglass in his autobiography, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, where he gives an account of his beatings by a professional nigger breaker named Edward Covey until he fought back. I'm going to pause here. See, this is why I can't read both books because I talk too much. Okay. And I'm about to talk a lot right now. So anyways, you know why Abraham Lincoln got Frederick Douglass on his team to, abolish slavery? It's not because he felt, and when I say he, I'm talking about Abraham Lincoln. It's not because Abraham Lincoln felt that enslaving people, period, but black people more specifically, because these are the people that was enslaved during the time of his presidency, but not because slavery was considered inhumane. He wanted it dismantled because he felt that it was detrimental, harmful, chaotic, malignant to the economy. So he got Frederick Douglass on his team thinking that he can wow people, through visuals by having Mr. Frederick Douglass take off his shirt and show the markings on his back from the several beatings that he's sustained throughout his life. And they thought that they would, get this, what is the word I'm looking for? this more demagogic approach where they're not really resorting to, logic or anything of the sort like that, but it's mostly just trying to evoke some emotions out of you by playing with your senses. Which one of them is your vision? You see these markings on his back, maybe you will be persuaded into believing that slavery is detrimental, it's harmful. Look, it's hurting people. But that didn't work. No. So what they did afterwards, they, as in Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, they went out, snatched up a bunch of biracial people and said, white people, look at this. If you don't motherfucking help us abolish slavery, you can be enslaved. Because look at these people. They don't look much different from you. Although they are mixed with some black. But they look like y'all. DNA done its wonderful thing and played around and made them look like y'all even though they mixed. Now, if these people who look like y'all could be enslaved, what is stopping these enslavers from enslaving you? And that is what got white people on board of abolishing slavery. The ones that got on board. But anyways, let's continue. Yet, nigger breakers were not an American invention. When I visited a famous slave fort in Ghana, I was shown a dungeon where rebellious blacks were held. I was also informed by our guide that race mixing, the American practice that has, in the minds of some, led to the rise of a new race in America, began before the ships departed from this fort. The white crew helped themselves to the female prisoners at the slave castle and probably en route to the South as well. Now, in this introduction, I'm actually reading the words of the author, which is Mr. Ishmael Reed. This man is speaking from his empirical interactions, his experiences, but also from his own academic research. So let's continue. The white crew helped themselves to the female prisoners at the slave castle and probably en route to the South as well. Though thought of as a custom that perished with the emancipation of blacks, nigger breaking persists in subtler forms. The fact that black young people are punished by the criminal justice system for crimes that, if they were committed by white youth, would be considered pranks, in the opinion of Cheryl Michael Hennessy of San Francisco, can be seen as a form of nigger breaking. Now, for those who saw BAFTA? I don't know, the award show that recently occurred where that Irish, Scottish dude or whatever the freak, I don't know his name, but he supposedly got Tourette's and he said nigger, whatever have you, while Michael B. Jordan and, oh Lord, why am I drawing a blank? I missed the name. I don't want to butcher his name, so I ain't going to say his name, but y'all know the man that was like, just say it. You want to say nigga, just say it. I'll say it with you. Yeah. Dude had a Tourette's situation where he blurted out nigga. Now, I'm pretty sure women walked across that stage. Not once did he blurt out, come, C-U-N-T, Not once did he yell out, bit, I-T-C-H. But nigga blurted out nigga. I'm pretty sure some Jews stepped across that motherfucking stage. Nigga ain't say nothing about them. Prince, what's his name? That dead Queen Elizabeth, one of her sons was up there. Nigga ain't blurting nothing crazy out about him. But two black men get up there. This nigga got Tourette's with nigga. If you ask me, that's a form of nigger breaker. But let's continue. Nigger breaking persists in subtler forms. The fact that black young people are punished by the criminal justice system for crimes that, if they were committed by white youth, would be considered pranks, in the opinion of Sheriff Michael Hennessy of San Francisco, can be seen as a form of nigger breaking. These youth not only supply the prison industrial complex with human merchandise, but capricious incarceration is a manner by which the more assertive of these youth might be chastened. So capricious, for those who don't know. If I'm not mistaken, that means it's more of like evil, like wicked. But we're going to look together because I love coming across words. I'm actually capricious. Oh, no. Duh. I'm thinking of pernicious. Capricious is actually dealing with sudden change. But let's confirm. Let's confirm because y'all know we like to educate. Let's increase our arsenal here. I'm over here spelling it wrong. Building our lexicon together. Given to sudden and unaccountable changes of mood or behavior. Okay. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. So anyways, capricious incarceration. So given a sudden or unaccountable change or in behavior or what have you, is a manner by which the more assertive of these youth might be chastened. The fact that 200,000 inmates, probably a low number, are raped in the gulags that pass as prisons is ignored even by progressives who spent thousands of hours of airtime and print space complaining about the accommodations accorded members of bin Laden's staff. Mr. Ishmael, I love how your mind works, Mr. Very. Oh my. I just love how he laying it out and he's showing these analogies. He like, look at this parallel. But you play blind, do it. But let's continue. Another form of nigger breaking is to publicly humiliate a prominent black person as a way of sending a message to blacks. Which was the assessment of MSNBC's Ed Schultz about the rating boosting marathon coverage of the Michael Vick case, the football player who was convicted for his part in a dogfighting operation. Schultz is one of a handful of white on-air commentators who speak about race with anything approaching candor. There was more coverage by the corporate media of the Vick case than that accorded the millions of deaths resulting from the embargo of Iraq and invasions of Middle East countries, which were at the hands of today's Israel residing folk, the same Jewish folk that they motherfucker keep deeming people anti-Semitic and motherfucking threatening to kill you and all this wild stuff. Every time you say something, blacklist you. But let's continue. It's interesting. Let me circle this word. Do y'all want me to keep going through here together? Because I don't want to waste y'all time, going over these definitions. Candor, I'm pretty sure that has something to do with like your demeanor. But let's see. Let's go for it. We already here. This is why I be talking about. I'll be here forever because I'm just extra. Bro, I didn't ask you to do that. Just extra with the education. I think it's just because I like talking. The quality of being open and honest in expression, frankness. Okay. I was off. So it's just open. It was another word. We already know capricious, sudden change. What was the other word? Lost it. Let's continue. Anyways, the pillaring of ex-Washington mayor, what is his name? Marion Barry is a good example of how a prominent black individual is used to cast collective ridicule on the black male population. We back to this. And see, this was a popular conversation, about 5 years ago? Emasculation, humiliation of the black male, using them as this like pillar of you shall be held accountable for your wrongdoings. But let's continue. I don't want to mess it up and add to it because I gotta go. All right. Jesus. Today, please teach me to be a few words. All right. When I suggested in my play, Savage Wilds, that the former black mayor of Washington had been singled out for his cocaine use because cocaine was the recreational drug of Washington's political and media elite, I was called paranoid by Elizabeth Castor of the Washington Post. Now that a number of prominent white politicians have admitted, even boasted about their cocaine use, including 2 candidates for New York District Attorney in the 2009 race, perhaps my diagnosis of the Post's reporter were premature. Tell it, Mr. Ishmael. On October 22nd, Steve Kastenbaum reported on CNN that it was no secret that cocaine was rampant on Wall Street during the 1970s and 80s, yet a member of their CNN panel of experts, William Bennett, then drug czar, presented drug use as primarily a black problem. Lord have mercy. And these niggas keep motherfucking pushing this rhetoric. That alongside crime, especially violent crime. It just don't even add up with the numbers. We only make up 14% of the crime. Nigga, how could we be participating in most of the stuff that's going on? Nigga. What black person own a port? Nigga. Airport. Shipping port. Nigga. Any port. Tell me one. Jay-Z don't even own one. Oprah Winfrey got the Oprah Winfrey Network, but she don't own no port. And then her ownership in that motherfucking Oprah Winfrey Network is so subsidiary, it's almost non-existent. Let's continue. Jesus. Keep me near the cross. Which is how CNN treated it and continues treating it. Presented drug use as a primarily black problem. Which is how CNN treated it and continues treating it. White teenagers and middle-class whites being admitted to emergency rooms and overdosing on cocaine are 1 or 2 day stories relegated to a few columns in the rear of the newspaper, while the identities of black juveniles are often exposed on television, whereas those of white juveniles are pixeled out. And it's crazy because in my local hometown, I'm constantly getting on local news reporters' tail like, nigga, this your motherfucking job. I only learned this in my motherfucking 6 years of acquiring an education in criminal justice. By the goodness of Jesus, I got an associate's up to a master's degree in criminal justice. But I know you came across that motherfucking U.S. Supreme Court case, which is considered a landmarked case, that states that children, minors' names, faces are not to be plastered throughout media, television, print, none of it. Because of what? They are motherfucking children. Just like your little white kids, they are protected as children. What the freak are you doing plastering their names and faces? You have the likelihood of ruining and scarring them. And they did that to a gentleman here in Rochester. This kid was accused, which many people, the streets talking that the gentleman, well, he was a kid at the time. He was like 14, I think. 14 years old. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but you could look it up. 14-year-old. He was accused and convicted of murdering, or I believe it was murdering, but I know he was accused and convicted of shooting a police officer, a local police officer, Rochester Police. They plastered that boy name everywhere, had his face everywhere. This baby grew up about my age now, in his 30s, still to this day being harassed. And the streets was talking that niggas hid behind him because he was kid. He didn't even do it. But this kid's life is ruined. And for what? Because media don't give a damn. They treat black kids like trash. When it comes to these little white kids, I'm telling you, you can always distinguish the difference in race when you are engaging in media. Because when it's a white person, they'll say something like a man, a boy, a teenage boy. But when it's somebody black, baby, name there, face there, mama, daddy, address, aliases, they pulling out every motherfucking thing you possibly did. Babe, you talk back to your motherfucking second grade teacher. They putting it out there because they got to demonize you and paint you out to be the most heinous individual ever. Lord, keep me near the cross. Keep me back on track. Now that book title had me in here ASAP. As it motherfucking should. But Lord have mercy. This man, he's spitting. And this was what he reporting on stuff that happened in 2009. So this got to be like 2011, 2012. Here we are, 2026, and that none changed. When I talked to my mama who grew up in the 70s and the 80s, well, the late 70s, early 80s, she said the same thing. None changed. Talked to my daddy. This nigga grew up in the 60s and the 70s. About the experiences out here in life, nothing changed. Talked to some of my great aunts and uncles. These niggas been alive since the 30s. Nothing changed. It's crazy. I'm pretty sure if I could find somebody that was alive in the 1800s, they'll probably tell me the same motherfucking thing. That's the only thing saving society from a head full of mess is a nigga from the old time sitting here like, nigga, ain't nothing changed. I'm 500 years old. It's been the same bull crap for the past 500 years. Anyways, let's continue. I got a lot to read. I'm feeling this book. Man, if that motherfucking title dragged you in here, Barack Obama, and the Jim Crow media, the return of the nigger breakers, got you up in here, I'm glad it did, baby. That's why I bought the book. The title got me by itself. But let's continue. But they write on them differences, them disproportionate dealings of media when it comes to reporting the alleged white people acts, including children and black children. And then don't even get me started on the adultification of black children, where it is academic research, data driven, supporting the notion that from the ages of 5 till about 19 years old, black children are viewed equivalent to as adults. And then when you hit the age of 19, it's like a revert. Now you infantilized. They don't even acknowledge you as a grown man or woman. Do you know how many times I'm constantly called girl by white people? Child, please. Here again, the double standard by which the criminal justice system judges white and black crimes was exposed. Yes, it was, Mr. Ishmael. Most incarcerated blacks are there because of nonviolent drug crimes. Yes, they are, Mr. Ishmael. And some are doing long terms as a result of New York State's draconian Rockefeller drug laws. Yes, it is, Mr. Ishmael. And if you don't know what draconian means, it basically means that these harsh motherfreaking punishments for dealings. But if you don't believe me, it's okay. I don't want you to. Don't take my word for it. We gonna learn together. Draconian, because thank you. They knew what I meant. Excessively harsh and severe, referring to laws. Okay? Yes. So let's continue. Rockefeller drug laws. It's crazy. Rockefeller. Still prominent to this day. Though traditionally, nigger breakers have been white, with immigration, other groups have joined them. An example is the Mexican American gangs who were recently busted for attempting to expel African Americans from a public housing project in Los Angeles. This is why I be telling Latinos, I don't care what music you call yourself growing up on. Black music has been popular culture forever. Just because you listen to our music, just because you grew up in poverty, don't mean you can say, nigga, we ain't the same, nigga. Your African ancestry, way up the food chain, does not equate to the experiences that I endure right now to this day based on my phenotypical differences from yours. So you can't say nigga. Neither can y'all Filipinos, Koreans, Cambodians. Y'all niggas be getting stuff effed up, and you white boys that niggas, most of y'all would consider white trash. Y'all think because a couple of black kids took you under their wing, because, I mean, it goes unnoticed, but there's pockets of white people that live amongst black people, even in the areas where they deem heavily black, but it's still heavily black. And just because it's heavily black don't mean you can impersonate a culture or a character, personality that is not, native to you. It's not you, my brother, my sister. Y'all weirdos just want to walk around with box braids. The poetic justices. How about you get some other freaking... Y'all, you want to copy off of black hairstyles? Take it all the way back then. Take it all the way back. Go get some micros. I bet you tender-headed, pale-skinned folk ain't gonna get them. You ain't gonna get them. Lord have mercy. Let me get out my flesh. Bind it in Jesus' name. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, Tierra, including the most difficult people, which are these cultural appropriators. Let's continue. Not all nigger breakers are thugs. Dinesh D'Souza came to prominence as one of former Treasury Secretary William Simon's counter policy wonks. Oh, that's my wife. I'm about to say, my phone knows. Do not disturb how you message me. Anyways, Simon believed that the public debate had been overrun by radicals and that it needed to be balanced by conservative voices. D'Souza was aligned with the right wing. The Dartmouth Review, which reveled in sophomoric racist hijinks, with D'Souza often joining in, nothing original, just the old racist shenanigans like mocking the black dialect. Today we call that black scent. But you on to something, Mr. Ishmael. Let's continue. Both he and Simon were embarrassed about defending the Dartmouth Review when the former president of Dartmouth, America Book Awards winner James O. Friedman, leveled charges of anti-Semitism at it. Turned out that the review was guilty after the publication of his book, The End of Racism, which was endorsed by the American Enterprise Institute, a far-right think tank that is awarded a hefty amount of airtime by cable. Two black conservatives quit the institute, one calling him the Mark Fuhrman of public policy. Mark Fuhrman was a Los Angeles policeman whose racist views were exposed during the O.J. Simpson case. Now, it's crazy that this man is talking about far-right think tanks and, far-right leaning organizations and stuff. And niggas motherfucking talk about these, matters. More so recently with, I'll say starting with Donald Trump's presidency, as if this is some new motherfucking phenomenon. You niggas always existed. Just like the far left. Psycho has always been here. But let's continue. D'Souza's attacks on blacks were often silly and offensive, but when he wrote a book accusing some white people of treason, some of those who had praised him greeted the book with ridicule. Now, won't they do it? We'll hop on the bandwagon when you drag black people. Niggas was eating up everything Candace Owens was putting out. Them Jewish people was funding her all left and right, baby. She had everything. Boom, boom, when she was beating up, chewing up, and spitting out black folk. But then as soon as, like always, we go through them humbling experiences and then we realize, like, damn, I thought more highly of myself than I ought to. Them niggas don't look at me no different than they do the rest. And she had her humbling experience. Then she realized, oh my gosh, I am black. Although I don't have the shared living experiences as those other blacks. I need them on my team because I can't survive this world of the Ben Shapiros and the Benjamin Netanyahus without Negroes on my side. I just can't. I just can't. That's my Candace Owens voice. Niggas are ride that wave when you eating up and spitting out black people, but then as soon as you start talking about them white folk, them Jewish folk, niggas switch up real quick. It's crazy. But let's continue. He forgotten his original assignment. Like many of those who received good money to fault blacks for society's woes. Jesus. It's crazy how things just keeps repeating itself. History just keeps recycling. Oh my gosh. He forgetting his original assignment. Like many of those who received good money to fault blacks for society woes, like them Sambo tap dancing New Yorkers. That be the Candace Owens of the world. You okay? Anyways, the little boosies of the world. But let's continue. He forgot his original assignment, like many of those who received good money to fault blacks for society's woes. The Jewish commentators who are silent about the abuse of Jewish women here and abroad on October 14, 2009. The New York Times ran a story about child abuse in the Orthodox community, said it had been covered up. Dinesh D'Souza has ignored the problems of those who share his ethnic background. For example, the million child prostitutes, Lord have mercy, child prostitutes in 2009 and beyond. And here we are in 2026, still talking about them human trafficking children for the means of sex. Interesting. For example, the million child prostitutes who walk the streets of Mumbai, the city of his birth. No money in it. His book, The End of Racism, is a blown up scissors and paste job that is based on the idea that affirmative action is a black program. Oh, Lord. Ain't that the book we about to read on? Let me fix my camera real quick because somebody tried to say that affirmative action was a Negro thing, and I think it's crazy. Because truth be told, if you really pay attention to who use and benefits off of affirmative action, niggas, it's actually white people. It's actually white people. I just had to fix my camera real quick. But it's actually white people. People say, well, how? White people, they're not a disenfranchised group. They're not a minority. How can they benefit off of affirmative action? Well, I'll tell you. One, your brain thinks just solely as white as race. But these people have ethnic backgrounds. And so a lot of the people that we deem white are more so white adjacent. But they come to this country seeking refuge. Some, And I say this because some of them be war criminals coming over here to hide behind refugees. Just saying. Just saying. But anyways, this nigga. So you can have people who's Romanian, Russian, Jewish, all them other motherfucking types of folks out there that I don't know the names or is evading me at the time. Italian, Irish, all of them is all included, but they're still considered immigrants. You know what I'm saying? So you come over here, descendants of that, you add in some poverty, maybe your parents ain't got no educational background. You are considered just as disenfranchised as a descendant of chattel slavery. Even though our experiences aren't identical, look nowhere near the same. We equally consider disenfranchised groups. On top of the fact, so you got poverty, financial background, educational background. Then you got these other factors like gender, identity, motherfreaking sexual orientation. You could literally be included as a disenfranchised group, benefit off of affirmative action by being a queer, poor, white male. But let's get back into this book, y'all. crazy. They based the idea that affirmative action is a black program, a false premise, and that blacks are at the bottom of the genetic tree, Asians and whites at the top branches, Hispanics in the middle, million of whom are blacks, a fact about which he seems to be ignorant. And oh yeah, there is no African Shakespeare. Well, people all over the world have storytelling traditions that include all of the techniques one associates with this art: metaphors, similes, irony, etc. And if Dinesh wasn't so bound to the idea that a superficial knowledge of a handful of European traditions makes one smart, and if he were the least bit adventuresome, he might enjoy some of it. African stories were transmitted to the hemisphere, including forms that are ancestors of such popular styles as hip hop. Even though niggas try to take this away from us, including the Latinos, and try to make it seem like we all on some inclusion. No, nigga, y'all came after the fact because we lived in proximity and y'all was just like, hey, what they doing over there? Y'all want to know how deeply divided the system is? Get arrested. Get dragged through the criminal justice system. Y'all think segregation and racial division just disappeared? Oh no. Our total institution reflects what society really looks like. It's just you free niggas, y'all that are outside of incarceration and ignorant, whether just purely uneducated or just obtuse to the fact. We still live in segregation. You go to prison, jail, it's blacks versus whites. Latinos go with the white people. Why? Because Latinos, according to American legislation, just like Asian folks, they outnumbered. You ever heard of the Asian Immigration Act of 1882? The C-word treaty? There's ample motherfucking legislation out there that got motherfucking these numbers of Latinos and Asians to the tiny numbers that they are. Same thing with Native Americans. So when you take the two biggest populous groups or populations, which are white people, ideally, and black people, then you got Asians and Latinos, they gonna be like, well, I don't fit in with y'all. Plus, when I lived in proximity to y'all, you were so mean to me, on top of the fact that we live in this society that glamorizes and lionizes white people. So we want to get in with the white people. So the Asians tend to flock with the whites as well as the Latinos. So it'd be Latinos, Asians, and white people versus black people. Every now and then you might get some of them mixed in with the black people, but because it's mostly based on color. But if it's just strictly culture based, it's black versus everybody else. But everybody else be the ones that want to be like, well, I want to say nigga. No. But let's continue. African stories were transmitted to the hemisphere, including forms that are ancestors of such popular styles as hip hop. I find these stories more interesting than the works of Sowell. Of course, without the Muslims, major parts of the European traditions might have been lost, including the novel. I once thought that there was such a thing as Eurocentrism until I traveled to Europe, West Asia, and found things to be more complicated than what D'Souza and his hero Alan Bloom make it out to be. Bloom's knowledge of the ancients was challenged by a real Greek scholar, Martha Nussbaum, and Bloom himself was involved in a scandal involving blacks towards the end of his life. Regardless of his reckless moral behavior, exposed by his friend, Saul Bellow in his novel Ravestein, Gertrude Himmelfarb, a member of neocon America's First Family, while critical of black morals, defended Bloom. The intellectual mercenary and nigger breaker like D'Souza presents a greater danger to minorities than the street thugs who commit hate crimes. Minorities have little capability to counter the propaganda and smears that emanate from think tanks and the media, and even academia. Ain't that the truth? With the firing and buyouts of minority journalists, their access to the media has been diminished even more. Unlike the hoodlums who wrote swastikas on the doors of synagogues, or the ruffians, usually young white males who bash gays, kill Hispanics, and are acquitted by white juries, with nothing like the continuing outrage that accompanied the acquittal of O.J. Simpson, the ideas of Dinesh D'Souza and Charles Murray, author of The Bell Curve, influence public policy. Murray is another example of a writer who redirects stereotypes from his group, in this case, the Scots Irish to blacks. When Vice President Cheney got into trouble for his joke about having Cheneys on both sides of the family and not even being from West Virginia, he was referring to the incest libel that's been aimed at the Scots Irish. Sponsors of Murray, D'Souza and John McWhorter, frontman for the eugenics-minded Manhattan Institute, are founded by, in some cases, billionaires like William Scaife, the Pittsburgh billionaire who is helping fund the grassroots teabagger spectacle, and along with the media, which have billions at their disposal, have formed the main opposition to President Obama. During August 2009, the power of these money people have been able to buy opinion, reached influence way beyond the dreams of William Simon. They were able to design faux grassroots organizations and demonstrations using insurance, industry-backed front organizations like Freedom Works and Americans for Prosperity. I'm going to pause real quick. I got to make a change to one of my videos so that way I can make sure I can reach other people. But if you haven't done so, make sure you like this so it can get out to other people, so more people can be educated about what's going on in the world. You see what I'm saying? So right now, I'm just adding some tags to this video so that way it can get out, because I know YouTube gonna try to block it. All right, I'm gonna leave this here. I'm gonna add more later as it comes to me. Blacks have chosen many ways to fight back against the nigger breakers, from using the machete against whole families in Haiti or murdering a whole bunch of people like Nat Turner and his associates, to using subtler ways. Barack Obama uses wit, wile, and irony to embarrass the low-grade mentality of the 9/12 demonstrators, the teabaggers whose numbers have been magnified by 24/7 cable news because people yelling and screaming makes exciting television. Right-wing commentators at Fox gave those who rudely interrupted congresspersons at town halls during August of 2009 more strength than their actual numbers. And MSNBC, which is falsely cast as Fox liberal opposition, awarded them more exposure by denouncing the demonstrations. And this man was talking about how Fox had a false, opponent in a fellow media outlet. And here it is in 2026, people are just now figuring out that, oh, wait, maybe all of these news platforms are owned and ran by the same people, and they just push these narratives that don't really match what they post in their articles and the narratives that they portray. But anyways, let's continue. On October 14th, when a spokesperson for Tea Party demonstrators said that over 1 million people turned out to demonstrate against the policies of the Obama administration, he wasn't challenged by Chris Matthews on whose show he appeared. The actual number was 60,000. So they said over 1 million, but the actual number was 60,000. Now, where else is that similar, where people are fabricating the turnout numbers? Interesting. The most recent elections, TPUSA, little Super Bowl. Not new phenomena? Because the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun, right? Okay. That's what I thought. Okay, let's continue. While the media exaggerated the numbers of those who believe that the president was born in Kenya, Southerners mostly, while President Obama receives high favorability ratings in the rest of the country, his favorability percentage in the South is 28%. The left has always protested the media's tendency to undercount the numbers of their demonstrations, which have, in the case of the many anti-war demonstrations, drawn hundreds of thousands. While individual gun-toters and deathers were interviewed on cable, rarely did one see someone as far left as these demonstrators are far right. Indeed, demonstrators who picketed insurance companies, whose opposition to a public option has created a situation where, according to a Harvard study, 45,000 Americans die each year because of lack of health coverage. Interesting. And it has been ignored. Interesting. Meanwhile, these politicians spew rhetoric like, you got thousands of people dying a year to gun violence at the hands of Black people. Oh my gosh. It reminds me of COVID when everybody was like, oh my gosh, COVID. And whole time, COVID had just as much as a detrimental effect on our daily lives as the flu. But the flu's numbers just get swept under the rug. Because the numbers of people that were dying from flu in the hundreds of thousands, we're just going to act like that don't exist. And we're going to talk about COVID. Jesus. Prison industrial complex. I'm adding a tag. Okay. Corporate America. I'm just adding some tags so my little video could get further out. Okay. Let's continue, y'all. Let me push the button on my camera before this bad boy clump out again. I need you to stay lit for me. What time is it? Oh, we approaching 1 o'clock. Tira, come on. We haven't even started chapter 1 yet, girl. We ain't about to be here for 5 hours now. All right. Sorry, y'all, if my chest over here bumping all on the microphone. Where did I leave off, Jesus? Ignored. Some of the fiercest and most hostile and racist trash has been aimed at the young president. Mr. Ishmael, I get it. You know, you speaking from around the time that Obama had became president, so there's some recency bias there. But I'm pretty sure, you know, looking in hindsight, you realize Obama is just as much as a turd as the rest of them. Pretty sure. Let's go, though. Anyways, some of the fiercest and most hostile racist trash has been aimed at the young president. And not only by the usual suspects, those who view the president as a monkey, a witch doctor with a bone in his nose, an image created by a neurosurgeon and Fox expert, David McCallum, and someone who would paint the White House black or use the White House lawn to grow watermelons, but also by prominent members of the Republican Party, including Sarah Palin, who was the candidate who called the president, who is a centrist, a socialist, and was the person who referred to the health plan advocated by the White House as one that would include death panels. So desperate are the cable networks for niche market viewers that Sarah Palin is treated as a serious person, even though her demagoguery increased the threats to the president's life, and her support among the public is 28%, a fact that seemed to have been ignored by prominent supporters of Ms. Palin, like Tina Brown and Mika Brzezinski. Now, for those that don't know what demagoguery means, is demagogic. It's literally using language, rhetoric that evoke emotion rather than encourage you to think logically. They basically just want you to be, brash, act irrationally, because when you're thinking and you functioning off of emotions, 9 times out of 10, you ain't going to look at the full picture. You just going to do some stuff, Demagoguery. That's all that is. Anyways, continue. Sarah Palin was a designated nigger breaker of the McCain campaign. But as I point out in this book, during his campaign and during these months of his presidency, Obama's had to maneuver through a gauntlet of nigger breakers, right, left, Republican, and Democratic, who use the repertory of ancient stereotypes about black people against the president. Repertory, I'm assuming that means repetitive, but let me confirm, we all about educating here, so y'all gonna see too. My bad, y'all. Repertory. The performance of various plays, operas, ballet. No. Intervals, another term for repertoire. Are you right? Are you sure? That doesn't fit the context. Who used the repertory? Maybe that could fit repertoire. Okay. Who used the... This is your repertoire, this your bag. This you. Okay, I see what they saying. Okay. Let's continue. Hold on. I just got an idea. I got to add some more to my tags. Oh, my. Definitely didn't spell that right. All right. Let's continue with the reading. While ex-President Bush could always rely on the support of Fox and other right-wing commentators, Obama is getting it from both sides. Some of his harshest criticism coming from the left. Indeed, the first attempt to break him came from his own party. In a manner similar to how Mary Matallin's author, swift boater Jerome Corsi sought to portray Barack Obama, Mrs. Clinton's campaign manager, Mark Penn, sought to portray him as a drug user and possibly a drug dealer. I remember when I had a neighbor who accused me of being a drug dealer because I smoked weed. It's like, nigga, I'm black, not a drug dealer. You, my friend, are more likely to be a drug dealer than I, sitting there in your whiteness. Okay? Society has constructed an easy getaway for you. My mere existence is your scapegoat. But I digress. Let's continue. Anyways. After the campaign, the Clinton strategy of depicting Obama as different as the other and even as a possible secret Muslim was exposed. When asked about Obama's Muslim heritage during the campaign, Mrs. Clinton equivocated, which basically means that she used language with the intentions to confuse, as it, like, basically ambiguous language, but it's intended to confuse. Equivocate. Y'all can't even see. Boy, I said equivocate. You know, Good is exactly. This is what I clicked. The freak. Use ambiguous language to conceal the truth or avoid committing oneself. This is what a lot of niggas do when they try to hide behind, I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. So I'm going to use equivocal language to intentionally confuse people so they don't know where I stand. You wavering, fence, waddling turd. But I digress. Let's continue. Actually, while I'm here, let me add the Clintons to my motherfucking tag, because they name keep popping up in here. Hillary. You and your husband is a hot mess. Mark Penn. Add that nigga too. Mark Penn. Alone in the world. All right. The McCain campaign dredged up the strategy that was used successfully against Michael Dukakis and Harold Ford. Really? Michael Dukakis, if anybody know, he lost to Bush Sr. in 1988 with the releasing of, what's his name? Willie Horton. Let me add Willie Horton. Oh, I ain't got him. Hillary Clinton. Yeah, girl. You add you. I don't want to leave, but I gotta go right now. But Dukakis lost the 1988 campaign to Bush Sr. Bush was losing. He made some calls, got Willie Horton released, which was a dude who, by paper, nobody would have released this man. But they released him I believe, with the intentions that he was going to wreak havoc, so they could do exactly what they did. It was like, look, this guy is lenient. He's soft on crime. He's motherfucking pro letting people out of prison early. And look, they done let a man out of prison. He done motherfucking raped a woman, brutally, beat her and her little boyfriend. And now, look at him. So he won. And then that was the switch that occurred. So when 1992 came along and Bill Clinton, let me add Bill Clinton. When he came along, he didn't want to seem soft on crime. So that's when he was like, he started pushing that, I'm tough on crime, John. And that's when the motherfucking Democrats, the left-leaning people, switched. That's when they started getting rid of the furlough programs and educational and vocational training and such like that in the carceral system. That Dukakis 1988 presidential election. Yeah, it's crazy. So it said the McCain, and a lot of people praise McCain. And then later on in life, I'm telling you, you can't believe what you see on TV. These niggas be dying, dead, at people's funerals. They be having old presidents sitting with each other. McCain recently died. They had the Clintons, Obamas, and the Bushes all sitting with each other like they the best of friends. And whole time, this book talking about how Hillary was sitting here Muslim, motherfucking, painting the wild racial black stereotypes on Obama. I mean, even to this day, Trump recently called Obama's monkey. I don't like the Obamas. I really do believe Michelle Obama is a man. I can't prove it, but I believe it. However, calling her a monkey is wild. Wild. So but I don't understand. When niggas die, when they have these parties, when they have these festivities, these niggas be sitting amongst each other like they the best of friends, and niggas just be eating it up like they the best of friends. Nigga, they not friends. You can't believe what you see on TV. It's like my mama told me. She said the world ain't nothing but the largest stage. And the older I get, baby, That is further and further confirmed. But let's continue. Anyways, the McCain campaign dredged up the strategy that was used successfully against Michael Dukakis and Harold Ford, that of showing Obama as a threat to white women and children. McCain, the same one that they had Obama show up at his mother freaking funeral, speak kind words about, talk about how he was such a great guy and he had no problem with him. That McCain, Arizona McCain, that Obama is a threat to white women and white children, just based solely on his phenotype. Nigga look black. I don't even believe Obama is fully black. I don't think he black. Something is up. But it's interesting. It's interesting. I almost lost my page, y'all. Man, this is crazy. The New Jersey Republican Party even tried to tie him to O.J. Simpson, y'all. The New Jersey Republican Party even tried to tie him to O.J. Simpson. Not only did Obama become the 45th president of the United States, but also the national psychiatrist, or someone like Jesus, expelling the demons from the madman he had encountered at Gadarenes. It was as though some of his opponents were like some mentally disturbed person writing his sentiments on the walls of a padded cell with feces. Baby, I love what you did there. That little imagery. Let me read that line again. It was as though, it's a little metaphor. It was as though some of his opponents were like some mentally disturbed person writing his sentiments on the walls of a padded cell with his feces. As usual, the corporate media was the mob leader. For the media, Obama can't win for losing, and often the right wing sets the agenda for the mainstream media. Now, it's crazy because in the most recent years, Republicans have been crying about how media have been heavily Democratic. And here we see around Obama's presidency, which is around 2009-ish, when this book came out-ish. Let me see when this book came out. It was sometime around then. 2010, this man talking about how right-wing Republicans and such control media. Now here it is, we'll say post the COVID time, maybe a little before that. You've been having the right wing, the far right, all of them, say complain about how media is so democratic. Nigga, I keep telling y'all, two peas in the pod. All they do is take turns doing the same thing. I really think they just be the same people, just switch your hats. You know what I'm saying? Today I'm a Republican, tomorrow I'm a Democrat. Or in public, I'm a Democrat. In private, I'm the opposite, and vice versa. You see what I'm saying? Some strange things going on. But anyways, let's continue. Where did I stop? With that beautiful metaphor. It was as though some of his opponents were like some mentally disturbed person writing his sentiments on the walls of a padded cell with his feces. Beautifully put, Mr. Ishmael. As usual, the corporate media was a mob leader. For the media, Obama can't win for losing. And often the right wing sets the agenda for the mainstream media. Just like today, the liberals, the Democrats, does it. They just flip-flop, take sides, or flip-flop. Okay. Let's continue. Anyways, take the response to Barack Obama winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Media Matters wrote, the volume emanating from the right quickly impacted more mainstream reporters. Times, Simon Robinson penned an online piece explaining how the award could prove politically harmful to the president. And Nancy Gibbs wrote a widely circulated article for Time as well. This one explaining why the Nobel was the last thing Obama needs. She's right. We all know the Nobel Peace Prize is something that should be avoided, like cancer. It says sigh. It wasn't long before the call started for Obama to turn down the award from a variety of sources. Malkin, CBS, Ship Reed, Times, Mark, Halperin, John Bolton, Slate.com's Mickey Koss, The Weekly's Standard, Mary Catherine Ham, and the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg all echoed the theme, among others. Don't take that Nobel Peace Prize, Obama, even though all of these little white people take them. Under false pretenses, too. Hey, 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 hey. Can nigger breakers be black? I think they can. Uncle Ruckus's, the Sambos, I don't care as long as I get mine. You know, them? Yeah. I would consider right-wing blacks who continue to be brought on by cable producers who choose black and Hispanic panelists, those least likely to offend their white audience, solely to defame Obama during his campaign and during his presidency, to be nigger breakers, especially those from Rev Moon's newspaper, The Nigger Breakers. The Washington Times. And Barack Obama became a nigger breaker himself. Thank you, Mr. Ishmael Reed. When he singled out black men in the United States and Africa for scolding. He was admired for his placing race in the background. The exception when he criticized Reverend Wright, black fathers, African leaders, and Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Kanye West, whom he called a jackass. He was applauded even by his critics for that one, but when he said that the Boston police acted stupidly in the arrest of Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates Jr., he was met with a national uproar and had to modify his remarks. Sound just like when Whoopi Goldberg made that comment about Jews, talking about what she said. White people got a problem with the Holocaust because it was white people oppressing white people. Juxtaposing the hardships and oppression that black people has endured based solely for being black. Like, white people oppressed white people, and it wasn't because they were white. But black people were oppressed, and the justifications were because they're black and all the stupidity that they came with following because they're black. But let's continue. With appearing before a conference of policemen, the officers who violated Gates' rights and lied on his report about the arrest was greeted with a standing ovation. The entire Gates episode was a blow to those who adhere to the fantasy of a post-race United States. The purpose of the corporate media would serve as a sort of home base for the nigger-breaking operation against Obama, regardless of the opinions of Don Imus, alumni Howard Kurtz, and others who pretend that Obama has the media in his pocket, seems to be that of positing a right-of-center United States. While the public that elected a president who campaigned as a liberal in the poll numbers that shows continued support for the president presents a left-of-center country. Yet on a Sundays this week, a Republican operative, Nicole Wallace, was unopposed when she talked about Obama's declining poll numbers. His poll numbers had decreased as a result of network television broadcasting attention grabbing antics of the teabaggers. But on the date of the actual broadcast of ABC's This Week, his poll numbers had rebounded to 56%. During the fourth week in November, Gallup and Public Policy released polls that offered a breakdown of Obama's poll numbers along racial lines. While Public Policy found his support among whites to have fallen to 42%, he still maintained high numbers amongst Hispanics and blacks, 67% amongst Hispanics and 78% amongst blacks. Gallup found 73% support among non-whites, their term, 91% and 71% among Hispanics. The Hispanics and blacks whom the Jim Crow media bring on camera to diss Obama don't reflect these numbers. According to Election Day exit polls, whites preferred to preferred McCain to Obama's 55% to 45%. In exit polls dating to 1972, Democrats have never carried a majority of the white vote. That's crazy. In exit polls dating as far back as 1972, Democrats have never carried a majority of the white votes. Interesting. Except when modern day Republicans were Democrats, because modern day Republicans worship the likes of what's that nigga name? The Marine Colonel Robert E. Lee. Yeah. And I've never understood that, because if you're a Republican who's far right leaning and you want to push this narrative that Democrats are the ones who fought for slavery, then why are there so many Republicans who worship, glamorize, and lionize Colonel Robert E. Lee, a racist United States Marine who was a Democrat who fought to maintain slavery? Just make it make sense for a sister that came out of the city school district. Just make it make sense. Where one of my degrees came out of a community college. Just make it make sense. For a little black girl, y'all love referring to me as a little black girl. Just make it make sense for this little black girl. I'll wait. Let's continue. Anyways, where did I leave off at? Jesus. What the discussion left out was the media's role in Obama's declining numbers by exaggerating the strength of the far-right demonstrators and even assisting them. A Fox News reporter was spotted at the 9/12 demonstration egging on the demonstrators, some of whom were interviewed by Max Blumenthal, didn't seem to know why they had to even come to Washington in the first place. Interesting. You got to watch these niggas that just be doing stuff to push narratives. Interesting. But let's continue. In October, Fox John Stossel actually appeared before audiences where he opposed what his sponsors, Americans for Prosperity, called the government insurance plan. The New York Times' Charles Blow wrote, "This was a conservative seething summer of discontent and unhinged hysteria. Town halls, tea parties, and tirades. They captured headlines and gained momentum. Misinformation ran amok. President Obama's approval ratings tumbled. Though, through it all, Obama maintained a Pollyannish, laissez-faire disposition. Some found this worrisome. Others, like me, even thought it weak. But maybe not so fast. According to Gallup poll, results released on Wednesday, the president's approval rating has stopped falling and has leveled out in the low 50%, about the same as Ronald Reagan's and Bill Clinton's at this point in their presidencies. Both two-termers, lest we forget." That was from Charles Blow from New York Times. An example of how the media have presented a few loud demonstrators to represent the thinking of the public occurred on October 13th. After a conservative health bill passed a Senate committee, CNN's Tom Foreman used footage of the same teabaggers rudely interrupting congresspersons to announce that the public was against the legislation. This was the theme of the cable shows and even Sunday talk shows that feigned seriousness. On this issue and others, the wealthy individuals who lurk behind the talk show screamers and who obey a gentleman's agreement not to criticize each other use their ownership of the airways to construct a false reality. They got us coming and going. Not only do they own the media, but finance the think tank policy analysts who are frequent guests on their shows. This is why Obama continues to be judged by all white panels on CNN's State of the Union, ABC This Week, C-SPAN, The Washington Journal, which provides a service by exposing the abysmal ignorance of some Americans each day. Fox News Sunday, NBC's Meet the Press, and CBS's Face the Nation, given the dearth of those who share the background of those constituencies that voted overwhelmingly for Obama, blacks, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, and others, President Obama will continue to be judged by an all-white, mostly male, middle-aged jury, some of whom, like Alex Castellanos, have designed racist campaigns, and others, like Mary Madeline, who have shepherded scurrilous swift boat style propaganda campaigns against the president, and David Gregory, who defended Don Emmett's racist outbursts until the very end. On the morning of November 8, 2009, after the House passed a health bill that included a public option, after pundits on the left predicted that it wouldn't up until the night before it passed, David Brooks, one of the most powerful of the country's pundits, with a column in the New York Times, was brought on to Emmett's defender, David Gregory's show, Meet the Press, to criticize the president on an all-white, one-woman panel. David Brooks is a neocon who backed the invasion of Iraq, a multi-trillion-dollar calamity, yet complains about the president's fiscal policies. He says his mentor is the late Irving Kristol and wrote that Bush won in 2004 because he carried states with high white fertility rates, those who wanted to escape vulgarity. Baby, what? Just be chatting like me, I guess. How did the public feel about those who shouted down the proponents of healthcare legislation at the town meetings and who were boasted by the infotainment media? Most Americans say the tone of the debate has been negative. According to the latest weekly news interest index survey conducted September 11th to 14th, among 1,003 adults by the Pew Research Center for the People and the Press, 53% say the tone of the debate over healthcare has been generally rude and disrespectful. 31% says it has been generally polite and respectful. That's 31%, and 16% do not offer an opinion. Among those who say the debate has been rude and disrespectful, most believe that opponents of the healthcare legislation under consideration are to blame by a 59% to a 17% margin. More blame opponents than supporters of the legislation. 17% volunteer that both groups are to blame. And this is from the Pew Research Center, September 16, 2009. The Huffington Post discovered that one of CNN's panel regulars was in the insurance business. Alex Castellanos, a right-wing Cuban American. This is the same man who designed the ad showing a black hand taking a job from a white hand. Lord have mercy. And they said this is what? Alex Castellanos, a right-wing Cuban American, designed an ad showing a black hand taking a job from a white hand. An anti-affirmative action ad, which led to the defeat of a black senatorial candidate, yet CNN uses him to comment on the actions of a black president. If that were not enough, in October, it was revealed that Castellanos' firm actually created ads on behalf of the insurance industry that was spending over $300 million, according to London's Guardian, to defeat the public option. Alex Castellanos is a regular CNN contributor, but one of Castellanos' secret identities is being the media buyer for one of the ad campaigns bankrolled by America's health insurance plans. See, you always got to follow the money, especially when it comes to politicians. Man, these super PACs, the dark money follows. You got to follow that, because some of these super PACs, yeah, they are required to expose to the public, the dollar amounts, who, XYZ. But there are dark money, they call them dark money channels, which basically means that money is given in secret. And you got to watch it, because You know anything about dealings? When people put money into you, they act like they own you. They believe they own you. It don't matter if you done borrowed money from your mama, your girlfriend, or some other freaking big time, sex ring pimp. They put any time, money, favor into you, baby, they gonna treat you like they own you. So this is why you can't take nothing from man. All right, let's continue. A majority industry trade group fighting strenuously against health care reform. So that's basically what he was paying money into, this insurance plan that was basically fighting against healthcare reform. Castellanos is responsible for placing more than 1 million of AHIP advertising in 5 states. CNN said they didn't know about his ties to the insurance industry. With the exception of MSNBC's Rachel Maddow, very rarely did the cable networks mention that the insurance industry spent millions to stage these demonstrations. The Guardian put the amount at over $350 million. The industry and interest groups have spent $380 million or 238 million pounds in recent months influencing healthcare legislation through lobbying. Ding, 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 ding. Money, 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 money. Money. Advertising and indirect political contributions. PACs, super PACs. I encourage you to get acquainted. Follow the money, you find the problem. Political contributions, we got to run that back. The industry and interest groups have spent $380 million, 238 million in pounds, in recent months influencing healthcare legislation through lobbying, advertising, and indirect political contributions to members of Congress. Did y'all forget when Clarence Thomas, the United States Supreme Court judge, took bribes, financial bribes from that Crow fella, that multi-million-dollar corporate owning fella? Ain't nothing come from them investigations either. That junk is in the hush. Shh. Sweep it under the rug. The largest contribution, totaling close to $1.5 million, has gone to the chairman of the Senate committee drafting the new law. If that ain't a bribe, what is it? Barack Obama made a speech in Africa criticizing African governments for taking bribes. Over here, we call them campaign contributions. Oh, Jesus, would you look at the hypocrisy that they call double standards? Interesting, Jesus. If cable had been around during the Eisenhower administration, leaders of fringe groups like the John Birch Society would have been given equal time with administration officials. Joe McCarthy would have been designated as the Republicans' party leader. Next to Joe Wilson, McCarthy was eloquent. Joe McCarthy would have been designated as the Republicans' party leader. Next to Joe Wilson, McCarthy was eloquent. All Wilson had to do for cable to grant him prominence was to call the president a liar during the president's speech to Congress, which was like taking a piss in public. The dilemma faced by black intellectuals like me, who are sometimes critical of Obama, is similar to that faced by some Israeli intellectuals. Interesting. He mentions criticism. Excessive, aggressive criticism from Israeli intellectuals whom I met during my second trip to Israel. And this book came out in 2010. Though they found Ariel Sharon's policies abhorrent, given the opposition to the former prime minister by outsiders, they found themselves supporting the odious prime minister. Crazy. When blacks see people showing up at Obama rallies with guns and the ugly racist signs aimed at the president, when they are informed of the Obama effect, a phrase for the unprecedented arming of whites throughout the nation. And when they are assaulted by media for which the president can't win for losing, a sort of electronic white power government in exile, a Republican Party and other assorted nigger breakers who have raised the vilest and most salacious attacks on the president since that, directed at Abraham Lincoln by the Confederate media, they find themselves rallying behind one of their own. And that ends the introduction. Trying to decide if I'm gonna read what, an hour and a half in. YOLO, right? All right, let's start reading. Get this done. Do y'all need to stretch your legs? Need to get some water? Ooh, excuse me. I'll change this title. Y'all forgive me. I'm just trying to get this video out. Then we gonna get started. La da da dee. All right, and now we're gonna get started. Let me check my camera. Y'all be patient with me. Need to click on it. We black. Okay. Zoom on me. Says zoom on me, baby. Okay. There's something, right? All right. In this little pause period, let me show y'all what I've been working on. It's a binder for my wife. It's a card collector binder. I'm gonna paint it. That's why it's like sealed off with this tape. I'm getting the sketches down now. We got Squirtle and motherfucking Scorpion. We're gonna Pikachu down here, and then over here, it's gonna be the original Halo game illustration. And I'm gonna put some artwork on the back. The back is plain. And I'm gonna paint it for my wife. But just in case y'all want to see what I meant, because Pikachu's going right here with these little circles. I know that lighting is crazy. But let me show you. That's what I be saying. I be busy. I be trying to. I just be doing stuff. Honestly, I like learning new things. So see, I was over here sketching. At first, I was gonna put Charizard and who is this? Bulbasaur or some junk on her junk, but then I was like, nah. I'm gonna redirect my mind. So I wanted to get a bunch of stuff on there that my wife enjoys. But this is the little Pikachu. That's going to go right here in this corner. I did some practice sketches because I don't draw as often as I should. So I'll be having to work out some of the kinks and whatnot. But, okay, got my little area clean. And we about to finish this book. Finish this chapter. We got about 10 pages, so let's get going, y'all. What time is it, Jesus? We got some time. Ma and Pa Clinton flog uppity black man. Ma and Pa Clinton flog uppity black man. So y'all know I ain't making that up. Black public intellectuals and politicians accused the Clinton campaign of using racist tactics against Barack Obama. The Clintons denied the accusation and the media backed them up. But after the campaign, a report about the Clinton strategy was published, and it showed that the aim of the campaign was to paint Obama as different, as someone who was not like us. Okay, Kendra Lamar. Mark Penn's campaign memo of March 19, 2007 was printed in the August 11, 2008 issue of The Atlantic. More than anything else, this memo captures the full essence of Mark Penn's campaign strategy, its brilliance and its breathtaking attacks. Penn identified with impressive specificity the very coalition of women and blue-collar workers that Clinton ended up winning a year later. But he also called Obama unelectable because perhaps against Attila the Hun, and wrote, I cannot imagine America electing a president during a time of war who is not at his center, fundamentally American in his thinking and in his values. Penn proposed targeting Obama's lack of American roots. Their effort to break Obama failed, but Clinton supporters' insistence upon painting Clinton as a martyr or someone who was cheated out of the nomination led to the rise of Sarah Palin. During Bill Clinton's first run for president, I appeared on a New York radio panel with some of his black supporters, including Paul Robeson Jr., son of the actor and singer. I said that Clinton had character problems. They dismissed my comments and said that I didn't know anything about politics and should stick to writing novels. Clarence Page, who has a monopoly on the few column inches and airtime made available to black columnists by the corporate America, said the same thing about me. I should stick to creative writing and leave politics alone. These criticisms didn't deter me. Writing in the Baltimore Sun, I was the first to identify Clinton as a black president, as a result of his mimicking a black style. I said he was the second since Warren G. Harding never denied the rumors about his black ancestry. As a result of his ability to imitate the black preaching style, Clinton was able to seduce black audiences who ignored some of his actions that were unfriendly, even hostile to blacks. We see that time and time again. Niggas just put on black face, black personas, black characters, and folks eat it up. I mean, look at the Kim Kardashian. That 2017, 2018 era with Kim Kardashian taking on blackness, but not really caring about blackness, is really what helped catapult a bunch of non-black people, especially non-black women, into dressing and imitating us, although they hate us. It's crazy. But let's continue. His interrupting his campaign to get a mentally disabled black man, Ricky Ray Rector, executed. Did Mrs. Clinton tear up about this act? His humiliation of Jesse Jackson? His humiliation of Jocelyn Elders and Lanny Guinier? The welfare reform bill that has left thousands of women, black, white, yellow, and brown, destitute, prompted Robert Scheer to write in the San Francisco Chronicle, to his everlasting shame as president, Clinton supported and signed welfare legislation that shredded the federal safety net for the poor, from which he personally had benefited. Has Miss Clinton shed a tear for these women, or did she oppose her husband's endorsement of this legislation? His administration saw a high rate of black incarceration as a result of draconian drug laws that occurred during his regime. He advocated trade agreements that sent thousands of jobs overseas. Did Mrs. Clinton, with misty eyes, beg him to assess how such trade deals would affect the livelihood of thousands of families, black, white, brown, red, and yellow? He refused to intervene to rescue thousands of Rwandans from genocide. Excuse me, draconian drug laws. My bad, y'all. Draconian. Coney. All right. My apologies, y'all. I'm trying to. All right. Did Miss Clinton tearfully beseech her husband to intervene on behalf of her African sisters? Did Miss Gloria Steinem, whose word is so influential among millions of white women that she can be credited by some for changing the outcome of a primary and maybe an election, marshal these forces to place pressure upon Congress to rescue these black women and girls? President Clinton also repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, which permitted the kind of wildcat speculation that has led to millions of Americans losing billions in equity. Steagall Act. I should look into the Glass-Steagall. Glass-Steagall. Carl Bernstein, appearing on Air America Radio on January 9, 2008, described Clinton's New Hampshire attack on Obama as petulant. Bill Clinton's behavior demonstrated that regardless of his admiration for jazz and black preaching, he and his spouse will go south on a black man whom they perceive as being audacious enough to sass Mrs. Clinton. In this respect, he falls in the tradition of the Southern demagogue. grinning with and sharing pot liquor and cornbread with black folks while signifying about them before whites. Though his role models are Martin Luther King Jr. and John F. Kennedy, he has more in common with Georgia's Though his role models are Martin Luther King Jr. and John F. Kennedy, he has had more in common with Georgia's Eugene Talmadge, the wild man from Sugar Creek, Louisiana's Huey Long, and his brother Earl Edwin Edwards, who even hinted that he had black ancestry to gain black votes. Alabama's George Wallace, Texas' Paul Ferguson, and kissing Jim Folsom, who wrote "You Are My Sunshine." He employs the colorful rhetoric of the Southern demagogue, the rustic homilies till the last dog dies, the whiff of corruption. Having been educated at elite schools where studying the War of the Roses was more important than studying Reconstruction, the undereducated white male punditry and their token white women failed to detect the racial code phrases that both Clintons and their surrogates sent out, codes that, judging from their responses, infuriated blacks, caught immediately. Blacks having been deciphering these hidden messages for 400 years, they had to in order to survive. Makes sense. Gloria Steinman perhaps attended the same schools. Her remark that black men received the vote 50 years before women in the New York Times op-ed, January 8, 2008. I'm going to finish this, but this lady comment ain't no different than, what's that lady name that was around with Susan B. Anthony? Susan B. Anthony was one of them too. It was Susan B. Anthony. Ooh, Jesus, I'm drawing a blank on that lady name. But them women were saying the same thing, and that was the late 1800s. Her remark that black men received the vote 50 years before women in the New York Times op-ed, January 8, 2008, which some say contributed to Obama's defeat in New Hampshire, ignores the fact that black men were met by white terrorism, including massacres and economic retaliation, when attempting to exercise the franchise. She and her followers, who spent thousands of hours in graduate school, must have gotten all of their information about Reconstruction from Gone with the Wind, where moviegoers are asked to sympathize with a proto-feminist, Scarlett O'Hara, who finally has to fend for herself after years of being doubted upon by the unpaid household help. Booker T. Washington, an educator born into slavery, said that young white people had been waited on so that after the war, they didn't know how to take care of themselves. And Mary Chestnut, author of the Civil War Diaries and a friend of Confederate President Jefferson Davis's family, said that upper-class Southern white women were so slave-dependent that they were indolent. Incompetent. Steinman and her followings should read Redemption, The Last Battle of the Civil War by Nicholas Lehman, which tells the story about how in 1875, an army of white terrorists in Mississippi led a campaign to redeem their state to abolish, with violence and murder if need be, the newly won civil rights of freed slaves and blacks. Such violence and intimidation was practiced all over the South, sometimes resulting in massacres. One of the worst massacres of black men occurred at Colfax, Louisiana in 1873. Their crime? Attempting to exercise the voting rights awarded to them 50 years before white women received theirs. Lehman writes, burning Negroes met savage and hellish butchery. They were all killed, unarmed, at close range, while begging for mercy. Those who tried to escape were overtaken, mustered in crowds, made to stand around, and while in every attitude of humiliation and supplication, were shot down and their bodies mangled and hacked to hasten their death or to satiate the hellish malice of their heartless murderers, which is basically to satisfy the hellish malice of their heartless murderers, even after they were dead. White posses on horseback rode away from the town looking for Negroes who had fled so they could kill them. Elsewhere in the South during the Confederate Restoration, black politicians who were given the right to vote 50 years before white women were removed from office by force, many through violence. In Wilmington, North Carolina, black men who received the vote 50 years before white women are the subject of Charles Chesnutt's great novel, The Marrow of Tradition. The Marrow, Marrow, is the name of my white families from Virginia. It's crazy that this Carolina, probably the same family, honestly. On Thursday, November 10th, 1898, Colonel Alfred Moore Waddle, a Democratic leader in Wilmington, North Carolina, mustered a white mob to retaliate for a controversial editorial written by Alexander Manley, editor of the city's black newspaper, The Daily Record. The mob burned the newspaper's office and incited a bloody race riot in the city. By the end of the week, at least 14 black citizens were dead, and much of the city's black leadership had been banished. This massacre further fueled an ongoing statewide disenfranchisement campaign designed to crush black political power. Contemporary white chronicles of the event, such as those printed in the Raleigh News and Observer and Wilmington's The Morning Star, either blamed the African American community for the violence or justified white actions as necessary to keep the peace. They do this every single time. This happened when Black Lives Matter mustered up and protest against the coercion and excessive force and brutality that's inflicted upon by police officers. It just recycles and repeats itself. It's crazy. Ain't nothing new under the sun like the Bible says. That's what Jesus said, right? Either blame the African American community for the violence to justify white actions as necessary to keep the peace. African American writers produced their own accounts, including fictional examinations that countered these white supremacist claims and highlighted the heroic struggles of the black community against racial injustice. Black congressmen who, as a rule, were better educated than their white colleagues were expelled from Congress. Interesting. I remember when I was in the Marine Corps and this white boy told me that he believed that black people are are street smart, but they lack book smarts. Mind you, I had asked this dude, I said, well, when you graduated, what was your final GPA? This nigga barely graduated with with a C. Barely. He had like a 1.9 or some trash. And I said, that's interesting. When I damn near graduated with a, 3.4? And that was me not even attending a city school district school. Got the second highest diploma in the state of New York. There's the Advanced Regents Diploma with honors, and then there's the Regents Diploma with honors, and then there's the Basic Regents Diploma. I had the second highest Regents Diploma and missed it by one motherfucking class. I failed chemistry. Just could not pass that motherfucking class. That one class prevented me from having an Advanced Regents Diploma with honors, although it doesn't even matter, except to us nerds. But this old country bumpkin white boy gonna sit here and talk about he give it to black people. They got street smart, but they ain't got no book smart. Then how do I got more book smarts than you if you believe I got none? Nigga. Interesting. Let's continue. Either Gloria Steinem has done her homework or as an ideologue rejects evidence that's a Google away. In the patriarchal corporate old media, which has appointed her the spokesperson for feminism, permits her ignorance to run rampant over the emails and blogs of the nation. And though this white Oprah might have inspired her followers to march lockstep behind her, a progressive like Cindy Sheehan wasn't convinced. She called Mrs. Clinton's crying act phony. Moreover, some of the suffragettes that she and her followers hailed as feminist pioneers were racist. Black women been saying this. Sojourner Truth was amongst one that constantly said that the women's suffrage hoes ain't care nothing about women. They only cared about white ones. But anyways, moreover, some of the suffragists that she and her followers hailed as feminist pioneers were racist. Some even endorsed the lynching of black men. In an early clash between a black man and a white feminist, anti-lynching crusader Ida B. Wells opposed the views of Frances Willard, a suffragette pioneer who advocated the lynching of black people. As the president of one of America's foremost social reform organizations, Frances Willard called for the protection of the purity of white womanhood from threats to morality and safety. They love appealing to this white womanhood purity nonsense. This is a common motif. Interesting. But let's continue. In her attempts to bring Southern women into the Women's Christian Temperance Union, Frances Willard accepted the rape myth and publicly condoned lynching and the color line in the South. Wells argued that as a Christian reformer, Willard should be speaking out against lynching, but instead seemed to support the position of Southern farmers, or support the position of Southerners. Mind you, Ida B. Wells told Willard, "You're supposed to be Christian. Shouldn't you be arguing against lynching?" It's crazy. It's the same thing we be saying nowadays about modern Christians who are okay with immigrants being hemmed up and abused, black people, and everybody else that are different to them. Because why? They're bigots. But let's continue. Miss Willard's point of view is echoed by Susan Brown Miller's, implying that Emmett Till got what he deserved. And the rush to judgment on the part of New York feminists who pressure helped to convict the black and Hispanic kids accused of raping a stockbroker in Central Park. Interesting. After DNA proved their innocence, the police promised them if they confessed, they could go home. A Village Voice reporter asked the response of these feminists to the news, or to this news. Only Susan Brown Miller responded. She said that regardless of the scientific evidence, she still believed that the children who spent their youth in jail on the basis of the hysteria generated by Donald Trump, the press, and leading New York feminists were guilty. Crazy. Central Park 5. Crazy, crazy. Donald. Central Park. Okay. Hold on, I gotta add it to my tags. Y'all forgive me. Feminist hero Elizabeth Cady Stanton. This is her. That Stanton lady that was with Susan B. Anthony. Yes. Offended Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist woman, attempted to prevent his daughter from gaining interest to a girls' school when she referred to black men as Sambos. Sambos. Elizabeth Katie Stanton. Yeah, girl. People Google your name, this is gonna pop up. Frederick Douglass. She was an unabashed white supremacist. She said in 1867, with the black man, we have no new element in government. But with the education and elevation of women, we have a power that is to develop the Saxon race into a higher and nobler life. Steinem should read Race, Rape, and Lynching by Sandra Gunning and Angela Davis's excellent Women, Culture, and Politics, which includes a probing examination of racism in the suffragette movement. Probing examination of racism in the suffragette movement. No duh. The crazy part about it, all these efforts and coalitions be developed. And I guess like the intentions at the foundation be good, but they ultimately end up just as raggedy as the ones preceding them. It's crazy. The Times allowed only one black feminist to weigh in on Mrs. Stein or Miss Stein's comments about Barack Obama and how he appealed to white men because they perceived black males as more masculine than they, an offensive stereotype. Who perceives black males as more masculine? White men? Then they, yeah, okay. An offensive stereotype and one that insults the intelligence of white men. And a comment which, with hope, doesn't reflect the depth of progressive women's thought. Do you think that the Times would offer Steinem critics like Toni Morrison op-ed space to rebut her? Hell no. Not Miss Toni. Don't count on it. The criticism of white feminism by black women has been repressed for over 100 years. They give them so much leeway to get theirs off. But if they allow any black women in the space to rebut them, it's just one. Anything more than that, they consider you a gang. You ganging up on them. Nah, bro, we don't need them problems because then we're going to have to throw all y'all up out of here. Every black woman get out. So we only take one. Because at least we could jump on just that one. At least we think. The criticism of white feminism by black women has been repressed for over 100 years. See Black Women Abolitionists, A Study in Activism, 1828 to 1860 by Shirley J. Yee. I asked Jill Nelson, author of Finding Martha Vineyard, Volunteer Slavery and Sexual Healing, how she felt about Gloria Steinem's use of a hypothetical black woman to make a point against Obama. She said, I was offended and frankly surprised by Gloria Steinem's use of a hypothetical black woman in her essay supporting Hillary Clinton. I would have liked to think that after all these years struggling in the feminist vineyards, black women have become more than a hypothetical to be used when white women want to make a point. And a weak one at that. Get up on our backs. It's a device, a distraction, and disingenuous, and fails to hold Hillary Clinton, or for that matter, Barack Obama, and the rest of the male candidates responsible for their politics. Who is this lady? She is sassy. I love her. Jill Nelson, author of Finding Martha's Vineyard. Miss Jill, I am coming for your book and you. Jill Nelson. So when I'm done, coming right forward. All right, let's continue. On the second day of a convention held at Seneca Falls in 1848, white suffragists sought to prevent black abolitionists, they get into it, Sojourner Truth from speaking. The scene was described by Frances Dana Gage in Miss Davis' book. Don't let her speak, gasped half a dozen in my ear. She moved slowly and solemnly to the front, laid her old bonnet at her feet, and turned her great speaking eyes to me. There was a hissing sound of disapprobation above and below. I rose and announced, Sojourner Truth, and begged the audience to keep silence for a few moments. Many minority feminists, I gotta put this on here, feminism, because y'all gonna put, when y'all see feminism, this gonna pop up. Suffragette. Woman suffrage. Black people just can't be great. All these hoes. Feminism. You got what I need. And I'm about to read this book. Let's get back to it. Where we at? Many minority feminists, Asian American, Hispanic, Native American, and African American contend that white, middle, and upper class feminists' insensitivity to the views and issues deemed important to them persists to this day. Yes, it does. Their proof might be Ms. Steinman's lack of concern about how Ms. Clinton's war votes affects the lives of thousands of women and her girls, her brown sisters in Iraq and Iran. 150,000 Iraqi people have been killed since the American occupation was ordered by patriarchs in Washington, D.C. Patriarchs who are responsible for the Welfare Reform Act. Interesting. With this in mind, I recently asked Robin Morgan, who was an editor of Ms. Magazine, where I was called the worst misogynist in America, whether she still held those views. I replied to that accusation that I should be accorded the same respect given to the men who ran the magazine at the time, Lane Communications. The accusation was made by Barbara Smith, a black feminist whom I debated on television and whose bitter comments about the white feminist movement make mine seem timid. She also criticizes the white gay and lesbian movements. She said that when she tried to join the gay and lesbian march on Washington, the leaders told her to get lost, that they weren't interested in black issues. It's common rhetoric, recycled. That they wanted to mainstream. About me, she wrote in the News, or the New Republic magazine edited by Marty Peretz, a man who once said that black women were culturally deficient, that my black women characters weren't positive enough. For running afoul of this feminist blueprint for writing that she tried to lay on me, her views and those like hers were repudiated by Joyce, a black critic who deviates from the party line. Beep, beep. I also reminded Ms. Morgan that the Miss editorial staff reflected the old plantation model, even though its founder, Gloria Steinem, said that she's concerned about the progress of black women. White feminists had the juicy editorial big house positions, while women of color were the editorial kitchen help as contributing editors. A few months later, Ms. Morgan resigned as editor and was replaced by a black woman, but not before taking some pot shots. Not at misogynists belonging to her ethnic group, whose abuse of women has been a guarded secret according to feminists belonging to that group, but at Mike Tyson and Clarence Thomas. Incidentally, when the white women who ran for office as a result of Miss Anita Hill's testimony against Clarence Thomas arrived in Congress, they voted with the men. Obviously. Robin Morgan had her secretary respond to my recent letter, and from the letter I gathered that Ms. Morgan hasn't changed her mind. I'm a worse misogynist than the men in the Pentagon and those who passed Clinton's welfare reform bill. I guess that bell hooks another black feminist who won't be inviting who won't be invited by the men who runs the Times to respond to Miss Steinem, was right when she wrote in her book, Outlaw Culture, the white feminists are harder on black men than white men. My mama been saying that. She said, y'all think white men are something? Get a load of the white women. Behind every masochist white man is just an even more depraved, vile woman. A house divided cannot stand. And I'm going to tell you this. Two vile people can't be together if one of them wasn't as vile as the other. You see what I'm saying? You can't have good with a bad, you know? But anyways, let's continue. But like other black feminists from the 19th century to the present day, her point has been ignored by the mainstream media, who, when they view feminism in just about every other subject, all they can see is white. Except when it's crime, athletics, and having babies out of wedlock. Jesus, hallelujah. Lord have mercy. Them the only aspects that they just view as synonymously black. Everything is white except crime, athleticism, and babies out of wedlock. Won't he do it? Thank you, Jesus. Feminists are harder on Ishmael Reed, Ralph Ellison, yes, him too, and even James Baldwin, that gentle soul, than on Philip Roth and Saul Bellow. Harder on Barack Obama than on Bill Clinton, to whom Gloria Steinem, a harsh critic of Clarence Thomas, gave a free pass when he was charged with sexual indiscretions by various women. She said that Bubba was okay because when he placed Kathleen Wiley's hand on his penis and she said no, he withdrew it. That when other women said no, he also halted his sexual advances. A letter writer to the Times challenged Ms. Steinem's double standard for white and black men. Bob Herbert, column, January 29th, writes that Gloria Steinem said that even though Paula Jones had filed a sexual assault or sexual harassment suit against President Clinton, Ms. Jones has not claimed that the president had forced himself on her. He takes no for an answer, Ms. Steinem intones. Lest we forget, Anita Hill said no to Clarence Thomas, and her accusations nearly derailed his appointment to the Supreme Court. Patricia Schroeder, the former congresswoman, did not claim that somebody may be overstating the case when Ms. Hill accused Judge Thomas of sexual misconduct, but Ms. Schroeder claims that now, in Mr. Herbert's column, again, the left inadvertently exposes the sliding scale of moral indignation. Raymond Baltz, San Rafael, California, January 29th, 1998. This is written. Just writing some notes in here, because I am a note writer in my books. That's the whole point of me buying them. Black feminists also charged that white feminists deserted them during the fight against Proposition 209, which ended racial and gender hiring in the state of California, even though affirmative action has benefited white women the most. Didn't I discuss this with y'all earlier? Didn't it? Y'all better pick up a book and read. Get out your comfort zone. They charged that white women were missing in action during the fight against the welfare reform bill. It seems that the cheapest form of solidarity they can express toward their minority sisters is to join in on the attack on Mike Tyson, Kobe Bryant, and Clarence Thomas, and Mr. Blank, a character in The Color Purple, who for them represents all black men. Though Steinem accuses men of being mean to Mrs. Clinton, she expressed no outrage about surrogate Bill Shaheen painting Obama as a drug dealer, or the innuendo promoted by Senator Bob Kerrey. Senator Bob Kerrey, who apparently, having made up with the Clintons, was recruited to associate Obama with what the right refers to as Islamo-fascist. He said his name is Barack Hussein Obama, and his father was a Muslim, and his paternal grandmother is a Muslim. He added that Obama spent a little bit of time in a secular madrasa. You'd think that the new school of social research would have fired Kerry when he admitted to committing atrocities in Vietnam. Now all of these attacks must be what Hillary Clinton meant when she warned her opponents. Now the fun begins. One of the charges made by some black feminists is that white women, middle-class movement figures, embezzle their oppression. In the New York Times, Gloria Steinem's using a hypothetical black woman to do a house cleaning on Obama was what these women must have had in mind. Philip Roth does the same thing. He uses his black maid characters to denounce black history and black studies. Mr. Roth, that's the black studies. Ain't doing nothing but worrying folks. Woo. Her using a black woman as a prop must have annoyed Nobel laureate Toni Morrison, who had made blistering comments about Miss Steinman during an interview. Conducted by novelist Cecil Brown and carried in the University of Massachusetts Review. Now, anybody who don't know about Cecil Brown, he had this platform, I want to say it was the 80s, where he would interview all types of guests or provide like panel discussion, a platform for panel discussions. And he gave a platform to many black folk to get their voices across, because obviously we were left out of these conversational spaces in other areas. Where Ms. Morrison made the harshest comments about Alice Walker's novel, The Color Purple, to date, even harsher than those made by black feminist professor Trudy A. Harris, who, as a result of her essay, published in an African American Review, faced such a hostile backlash from white feminist scholars that she stopped commenting about the novel, which has become a sacred text amongst white feminists who are silent about how women are treated among their ethnic groups. Steinem said that had Obama been a black woman, he would not have made as much progress as a presidential candidate, and added that white men would prefer voting for a black man over a white woman because they perceive black men as being more masculine than they. Is that true, white men? Do y'all perceive black men being more masculine than y'all? Is that why the likes of like Jake Paul, I think that's his name, with his obsession with big black male phallus, the buck breaking of black men, where you try to emasculate them and effeminate them, Like, do y'all really feel that black men are more masculine than y'all? And please, expound. I have time. Comment in the comment section. Let's continue. I wrote a response to the Times on January 8th, 2008. Dear Times, even Dr. Phil would probably snicker at the level of pop psychology employed by Gloria Steinem to explain the attraction of many voters to Senator Barack Obama. For example, she believes that the preference for a black male candidate over a white woman by some white males is based upon their admiration for the black male's masculine superiority. Masculine superiority? Yeah, because I thought white men equated black men to women. Let's continue. All four of the current heavyweight champions are white, as well as last year's MVP of the NBA were white men. Moreover, Ms. Steinem is a longtime critic of black men as a group. She said that the book, The Color Purple, in which one black man commits incest, told the truth about black men. The kind of collective blame that's been used against her ethnic group since the time of the Romans. White people be so sour about that incest. Like, no damn duh. All groups of people motherfucking participated in it. It's just y'all the ones that motherfucking popularized it. Like, made it a known thing. Just was open. Like, there's literally people down south that's just hooping about sleeping with their sister. Like, yeah, we come across some Negroes that'll be like, you know, anything past first cousin is free game. Y'all be looking in your immediate circles. But I digress. Because I actually did come across this this interview. And it was a black man. I forget his name, but he's on them prison stories. And he talked about how the cards that he were dealt, it was just one of them things where it's like nobody was trying to help him get his life together. So the carceral system was it for him, and he was so indulged in the carceral system so early on. But he was in there before he even had the opportunity to start thinking about girls and stuff. So when he started going through, you know, sexual changes, body changes, hormonal changes. He's starting to be aroused, but now he's surrounded by just men. But he told a story of his siblings participating in intercourse. He has a very interesting story. His name is called like The Booty Warrior or something like that. But I know it's an interview on Prison Stories. It just made me think of that. I know some people are like, why did you mention that? We wasn't even talking about that. We talking about white people and incest. I know. It's just, let's continue. It triggered a thought in my mind. Okay. All right. But anyways, I also made a reference to her abandonment of a tearful Shirley Chisholm's presidential candidacy after supporting it. If she's so concerned about the political fate of a black woman's presidential bid, why did she desert Miss Chisholm in favor of the man? She also said gender is probably the most restricting force in American life. The fact that when white women received the vote, they experienced little of the violence that accompanied black men being awarded the right to vote 50 years earlier suggests that some groups, black men, black women, Hispanics, Asian Americans, and American Indians, face more restrictions than white women whose college enrollment is far higher even than that of white men. Steinem said that women are never front runners. How many white women senators are there? Now, how many black? Interesting take, Mr. Ishmael. Cecil Brown, author of the best-selling Hey Dude, Where's My Black Studies Department?, wrote, I grew up in North Carolina, where I often heard my mother and my aunt speak of the racism of white women against them. Their experience is that of millions of black women who were and are discriminated by white women. In the Bay Area, where I now live, a professor friend told me recently that a white female student told him that she found the use of the expression white woman in his lectures offensive and asked that he not use it. Like this student, Miss Steinem avoids the phrase white woman because it historicizes their gender. While she lectures to us about black men, white men, and black women, she can only think of her white women as women. Mr. Ishmael. It's like you pulling all the information out of my head. I should have been read this book, y'all. But it's time to take pride in breaking all the barriers. Miss Steinem ends her remarks. We have to be able to say, I'm supporting Hillary because she'll be a great president and because she is a woman. But do we dare say that we should support her because she is a white woman? White people really be having problems. And it's not just white people. It's non-black people. Y'all really be having problems. More specifically, white people be having problems with black people putting the modifier black. Y'all do it. We can't do nothing. Niggas can't even exist without you putting black. A crime take place, baby, you didn't even have to see the perpetrator. You automatically think it's black. And then you put it in your media. Whole time giving a free pass to Billy Bob Thornton. Because the police and everybody and their grandma is looking for a black man, even though it wasn't a black man. Or a black boy. Or a black girl. Or a black woman. Everybody looking for somebody black, even though it wasn't nobody black that did it. But then when we put the modifier, black, y'all be getting, y'all, it's like somebody threw sand in your vagina and then started kicking you in it. I remember this little white boy got his britches all up in his booty hole because a girl wrote her paper talking about black magic. And he was so hell bent over the fact that why every time black people talk about stuff with black people, they always gotta put black. If white people did it, we would be presumed as racist. Well, no damn duh. But thank you, Captain Obvious. Oh my gosh. Let me continue. I'm trying to finish. I got 4 more pages, y'all. 8. Count from back. Bam, that's it. Our letters were not published, but one written by black feminists exposed the divide between black and white feminists. One that is rarely aired since white feminists have more access to the media than black ones. White feminists in their books report falsely a solidarity between them and black women. Among letter writer Karen Kimbrough's comments, as a black woman and a feminist, I hate those lines. As a black woman, as a black man, as a firefighter, as a nurse who's been practicing for over 30 years, nobody cares. You can state whatever you need to state without that line. That line. It implies as if your opinion matters because you hold whatever status. And yes, you are a black woman, and no one is discrediting you, Miss Karen Kimbrough. But baby, I'm pretty sure you take out as a black woman and feminist, you could have said everything you said. Actually, I'm going to read this, and I'm going to let you know if I still got out of this. That's a black woman. I'm going to let you know. As a black woman and a feminist, scratch that, I find it depressing to see Gloria Steinem set up this tired false debate as to whether a black man or a white woman is more disadvantaged in national politics. She cites as evidence that black men were given the vote a half century before women of any race were allowed to mark a ballot. So what? My parents, who are Mrs. Steinem's age, vividly recall racism in the Deep South, including barriers to voting as well as the barriers to many other supposedly granted rights like eating in restaurants, staying in hotels, and using public facilities. These were all rights white women actively enjoyed. Yeah, I pretty much guessed that you were black here, but thank you for letting me know that you're a black woman and a feminist. Camille Paglia also wrote in. Hillary's disdain for masculinity fits right into the classic feminazi package, which is why Hillary acts on Gloria Steinem like catnip. Baby, I'm telling you, she like a cat just... Oh, cat to cat. These metaphors is beyond it. I'm feeling them. Anyways, Steinem's fawning gasses a New York Times op-ed about her pal Hillary this week speaks volumes about the snobby clubbiness and reactionary sentimentality of the fossilized feminist establishment, which had blessedly fallen off the cultural map in the 21st century. History will judge Steinem and company very severely for their ethically and obtuse indifference to the stream of working class women and female subordinates, whom Bill Clinton sexually harassed and abused, enabled by look the other way and trash the victims, Hillary. Baby, these some. Where y'all at? I love people that can mother freaking hurt a nigga feeling without a curse word. They mother freaking rhetoric. Jesus. What's your name? Camille Paglia. Thank you, ma'am. Kim. Women criticize, because I'm coming back to these women. I'm going to look for them on social media. Hillary. We know who that is. An example of the problems that Barack faces as a result of there being few blacks having jobs in the old media occurred during an appearance by a white woman reporter on the Washington Journal, January 14, 2008. So pro-Hillary was this reporter Beth Fooey, that one woman called and said that she thought that this woman was a Hillary spokesperson because noticing that she was from the Associated Press. Obviously, the media have been infiltrated by Steinem's legions. I like that motherfucking metaphor, legions, because that connection to show amongst demons and political pawns. Baby, clever. I like it. Scathing comments about the white feminist movement by black feminists are included in the Feminist Memoir Project, edited by Rachel Blah Duplessis and Ann Snitto. Times person Maureen Dowd also challenged Steinem, who is hard on black guys. I need to charge my phone. But once confessed in the Times that she become embarrassed when a male of her ethnic group becomes involved in a scandal. Challenging Steinem's argument that she is supporting Hillary because she has no masculinity to prove, Dowd wrote, empirically speaking, her masculinity is precisely what Hillary has been out to prove in her bid for the White House. What else was voting to enable W to invade Iraq without even reading the National Intelligence Estimate and backing the White House bellicosity on Iran, but proving her masculinity? Say that. Bellicosity. What does that even mean? Bellicosity. Get off me. All right. Bellicosity. Ugh, the definition. I don't like that. I need to put my VPN on. Bro, give me a natural disposition to fight. Okay. What is that, a noun? Okay. Bellicosity. That's how I'm going to start describing myself from now on, because I definitely have a natural disposition to fight. I love it. That's why I'm about to be in this boxing class in about an hour. All right, it's 2:14. Let's continue. Anyway. Okay. Bellicosity. Strong inclination to fight. Okay. Natural disposition to fight. Natural disposition to fight. Desperate. When the campaign moved into New Hampshire, the Clintons launched the brass knuckles attack on Obama that commentator William Bennett predicted would happen after Mrs. Clinton was upset in Iowa. His voice shaking with rage, a livid Bill Clinton. Where did we leave off, Jesus? A livid Bill Clinton said that Obama's position on the war in Iraq were a fairy tale and that nominating Obama was a roll of the dice. Writing in the Washington Post on January 13, 2008, Marjorie Valbrun voiced the reaction of many blacks to Clinton's performance. If anyone needed any proof that the mean Clinton machine is alive and well in this campaign, all they had to do was watch Bill Clinton deliver his angry diatribe against Obama in New Hampshire last week just before the primary. His red-faced anger was clear and a little scary too. It wasn't what he said, but how he said it. His tone was contemptuous of his wife's main challenger, whom he described as a political neophyte, who for some reason was being granted a honeymoon with the national media. This is the same Bill Clinton who took on Sister Soldier. Y'all remember her? A young rapper, and at the time controversial black rapper who made incendiary racial remarks after the Los Angeles race riots. Many people accused Clinton of using the rapper and an appearance before Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition as an opportunity to distance himself from Jackson, the ultimate race man. The move helped reinforce his white moderate bona fides. On January 13, when Tim Russert interrogated Mrs. Clinton as to whether the attacks on Obama by her and her husband and her surrogates were racist, she filibustered, meaning she prolonged the process, and dismissed such concerns as the one made by Ms. Valbrun and other blacks in a patronizing manner. She falsely accused Obama of comparing himself with JFK and MLK. He didn't. He invoked their names to make a point about hope, how some hopes considered false by cynics can be fulfilled. So offended by what he considered a black man getting cocky with his wife, Clinton blew his top. Cocky was a word that nuns educated Bob Herbert used to admonish Obama. Herbert, one of three blacks whom the Times views as unlikely to alienate their readership, pointed to an exchange between Obama and Mrs. Clinton. When Mrs. Clinton during a debate commented that voters found Obama more likable than Mrs. Clinton, Obama said that Mrs. Clinton was likable enough. Obama's reply prompted an antebellum white man, Karl Rove, to refer to Obama as a smarmy, prissy little guy taking a slap at her. He said that this exchange threw the primary victory to Mrs. Clinton. Notwithstanding the irony of Karl Rove referring to someone as smarmy, I don't even know what that means, but we're going to look that up. Smarmy. If a reply as a mild and innocuous as Obama's leads to his being flogged by Clinton and reprimanded by one of the establishment's black tokens, Obama is going to be restricted in his ability to take on the political brawlers and hit persons aligned with Clinton, like Don Emu's buddy, James Carville, a man who sneers at people who live in trailer parks and who practices no-holds-barred political strategy. Let's look up smarmy. Disposition to fight. Smarmy. Ingratiating and wheedling in a way that is perceived as insincere or excessive. So just pushing yourself in excessively or insincerely. Okay. Ingratiating oneself. In a way perceived as insincere. Okay. Let's continue. Both CNN and Carl Bernstein said that Clinton, in the midst of giving this uppity black the required flogging, Clinton's a Jeffersonian and flogging. Hold on. Let me go back. Both CNN and Carl Bernstein said that Clinton, in the midst of giving this uppity black the required flogging, Clinton's a Jeffersonian and flogging blacks was Jefferson's idea of recreation, had misrepresented Barack's record. Also, those who commented about Hillary Clinton's tearful breakdown missed the commentary that accompanied this calculated attempt at seeming human and personal, which occurred as Jesse Jackson Jr. noted in the Daily News when her advisors told her that she should appear to be more human. Why didn't she cry for the victims of Katrina, she added. Oh, that's funny. I would have said the same thing, though. She said that she didn't want to see the country go backwards or spin out of control, the kind of vision of black rule promoted by D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation. First depiction of the KKK movie. And neo-Confederate novelist Tom Wolfe's A Man in Full. Unfortunately for Obama, this was during a week that saw post-election violence in Kenya, where Barack's father was born. Hers was the kind of rhetoric that was used by the Confederates, whose rule was restored by Andrew Johnson. Give the black man governing powers, and no white woman will be safe. Because black people are just incapable of governing themselves. Retired, recycled, and regurgitated rhetoric that's been around for God knows how long. I'm so tired of it. All right, y'all. We literally got bow, 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 bow left, and we done. So, I'm going to take this opportunity, and I'm going to show y'all a video from my, my channel, okay? Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to help you pass the time, okay? Because it's like, it's so outlandish, but then it's not funny because you see how the effects it has, and then there's truth to it, but then it's like, but some of those women probably would have ended up with children if they stayed at home, because if you look at like the pool that they get people from, yeah, like they get people from broken homes and all types of stuff. Go ahead.
No, one of them had a newborn baby and you would have never known. And to me, I'd be like, the thought of missing that time with my kid, I think that's what breaks my heart for them, because they made some true sacrifices to have a newborn baby and still be on drill instruction duty. And I ran into my drill instructor at Warren Officer School at TVS. So that was why I was like, oh my God, I could just see her mannerisms and her finger twitches and you just illustrate. I'm like, oh my God, it's Sergeant Schultz. It was,
Nerd.
yeah, it's weird now, but the things that they said, I'm like, they lived and experienced the Marine Corps and dealt with other female Marines. And I say dealt because unfortunately that is a lot of what I was like put on. I called it the vagina monologues, or the vagina working party, because I was in charge of the females. And anytime they had a problem, it was on me, even though I'm like, she's pregnant. I've never even been pregnant, but I'm supposed to make the pregnancy order, which is to protect yourself. You should. But it was also to be like, guys, she can work. She ain't going home. I don't think so. She just can't be in a truck. She can't have a flak jacket on. Yeah, fine. But she's also not a high-risk pregnancy right now. So y'all need to stop being pussies. Like, you're so afraid to approach a pregnant girl and get in trouble that you just can't even do your job.
All right, y'all. We're going to finish up these remaining pages. And I'm going to let y'all on about y'all day, because it's 2:25. I got about an hour left. Bill Clinton's orchestrating his wife's being more personal was a brilliant stroke, one that might doom Obama's candidacy, but will doom the Democrats' chance to win the 2008 election as well. As a Southern demagogue, Bill Clinton calculated that no black man could compete with a white woman's tears, a leftover from the old South thinking. Black men have been lynched as a result of the tears of white women. While Jesse Helms, another Southern demagogue, used a black man's hand in an ad that criticized affirmative action, feminist Bill Clinton, who exploited a young woman who held him in awe and cost Al Gore an election, used his wife's tears, so desperate as he to achieve a third term and redeem his being impeached. Ain't much different from George W. Bush using motherfucking the releasing of Willie Horton, despite Willie Horton on paper, nobody would have released him. Like, I am an advocate for nobody should be in prison because it ain't no place for rehabilitation as people think it is. I probably still wouldn't have even released that man to the public. I would have been like, can we release him in the mountains somewhere? Like, brother. But they released him. Then when he reeked and committed the wild, heinous acts, they went and put him on the news. Guess what the media did? They darkened this man's picture so they can appeal to white anxiety, so they can appeal to white fear. Got these people nuts. Oh my gosh, this demonic, criminalistic man is out here raping white women and children, and then he abused that white man. It's that soft white man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Recycle tactics. I'm just saying. Ain't nothing new. Niggas be doing anything to win these elections. Anything. That's how George W. Bush Sr. won against Dukakis in 1988. And then now we hear that Clinton did some strange activities. I'm just saying. Anyways, let's continue. We almost done, guys. We almost done. Bear with me. Anyways. But judging from angry black callers into C-SPAN's The Washington Journal the day after the New Hampshire primary and the following day, and from my own non-scientific survey, many blacks finally get it. That they have been snookered by the Clintons. One angry man said that blacks supported Clinton during his marital problems, and this is what they get for it. Just saying. Another man said that he was going to vote for McCain as a way of protesting the Clintons' treatment of Obama. On January 11, an irate black woman called in and said that she had been devoted to the Clintons since the 1990s, but after his attack on Obama, which she likened to a knife in the chest, and which she described as low down, she said that if Hillary were nominated, she'd either vote Republican or stay home. Calling into the Journal on January 13, a black woman from Ohio said that many of her friends were upset with the subliminally racist campaign against Obama that the Clintons were conducting. These callers expressed the disgust that thousands of blacks feel about the Clintons' dirty tricks campaign against Obama, which included sending out mailers, making false statements about his view about abortion, and deceptively attributing another mailer critical of Obama to John Edwards. This black backlash against the Clintons provides the Republican Party with a golden opportunity to recruit black voters for McCain, but I doubt whether they will seize upon it. After all, while Clinton might have an office in Harlem, McCain has a black daughter. A black PhD caller said that he found blacks in a barbershop to be more prescient than he. Prescient. All right, I gotta stop here because it about butcher me trying to pronounce it. Prescient. Knowing or suggesting clearly what will happen in the future. Okay. Suggesting. Knowing correctly what will happen in the future. What will I do? What will I do? Sister Soldier. She pops up a lot. Let's get back to it. They said that once whites entered the voting booth, they'd vote for the white candidate no matter what they'd said to the pollster. Some commenters recalled treatment that Harvey Gantt and Tom Bradley received. Pollsters considered both to be shoo-ins for senator from North Carolina and governor of California because whites misled pollsters about how they really intended to vote. Later in that day of January 8, Larry Sabato of the University of Virginia, appearing on the Chris Matthews Show, commented about a previous segment during which D.D. Myers and Pat Buchanan opposed Michael Eric Dyson's argument that white racism was a factor in Obama's New Hampshire defeat. He said, "I think it's very naive given American history to automatically dismiss the racial voting theory before it's investigated. There is some evidence that race is one of the several factors involved in this upset." Chris Matthews, who apparently has taken a new look at racism in the United States after the Emmys debacle, and a couple of other white commentators, including NBC News political director Chuck Todd, agreed with this sentiment that race was a factor. But most white commentators agreed with Pat Buchanan and D.D. Myers, former Clinton press secretary, who said that the difference between the polling that showed Obama with a double-digit lead and the actual outcome had nothing to do with white voters, telling pollsters one thing and voting the opposite. For people like Pat Buchanan, nothing has to do with race unless he can use race to stir up votes in one of his campaigns. Predictably, the New York Times also followed the line that the racial attitudes of whites had nothing to do with Obama's narrow defeat in New Hampshire. Not surprising, since the line of the New York Times on the opinion page and elsewhere is that we have entered a post-race period. The devil is lie, and he always has been. Such is the rage of blacks against the Clintons after Iowa and New Hampshire that if Hillary Clinton is nominated, she will not be elected president. Obama and his Joshua generation will inherit a party that has lost its way. This will be a new development for the progressive movement, since from the abolitionists to the progressive movements of the 20th century, black progressives were the followers and not the leaders. When Frederick Douglass, Richard Wright, and Ralph Ellison got out of line, the progressives replaced them with more obedient black spokespersons. After he broke with his progressive sponsors, Richard Wright was assaulted, the god that failed, by Coaster Salone, Wright, etc. Sounds about right. You don't do what we want you to do, you don't abide by our rules, we will replace you. Simple as that. But let's continue. An uninformed Times op-ed writer, a colored mind double, said that Obama had gotten farther toward the nomination than any other black. Not true. When Jesse Jackson won the Michigan primary, there was an eruption of panic among the party elite. Ben Waterberg and others were brought into a smear with the charge of anti-Semitism, and out of this emergency arose the white conservative wing of the party. The Democratic Leader Council, whose founder, Al from Steele, brags about how he put black people in their place. Clinton was the Democratic Leadership Council candidate for president. The reason for the 1960s rift between the Black Power people and the New Left was because when the black nationalists arrived at Freedom Summer, the Northeastern liberals were giving orders, while the blacks were taking the risks. The black nationalists took control of the movement and dragged Stokely Carmichael, who was devoted to nonviolence, kicking and screaming, into their ranks and into their philosophy of armed self-defense, according to Askia Toure, whom Mary King, in her book Freedom Song, accuses of purging the Northern liberals from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. The progressive white women left SNCC, but not before borrowing the SNCC manifesto and using it as their own, according to King. They changed the pronouns, and this became the beginning of the modern feminist movement. The reason Interesting. So white nationalists was barking orders. Black people was just like, nigga, I'm mother freaking taking on all the risks. We about to get rid of you. And the little connection that they did have, they used the knowledge that they have acquired from said relationship and started the feminist movement. Interesting. The reason that much of the feminist movement's fire is aimed at the brothers is because some of these women went away mad. See Going South by Deborah L. Schultz. Based upon Stokely Carmichael's remark that the position of women in SNCC was prone, they accused the black men in SNCC of misogyny. According to black women who were members of SNCC, the white feminists, led by Casey Hayden, took Carmichael's comments out of context. Their views about their clashes with white feminism are printed in The Trouble Between Us by Winifred Brines, a book ignored by Mark Lebovic, writing the New York Times on January 13, 2008. He repeated charge about Carmichael made by white feminists without asking black feminists what they thought. Typical of a member of the old media, which takes its cues from those whom the patriarchy has appointed to lead the movement. That sounds about right. That sounds about right. That sounds as accurate as you will get tonight. Sorry, y'all. I'm over here highlighting some stuff that I need to come back to later on. You know what I'm saying? So I could have these names, because I like to look up the names of these people, see who these people are, because a lot of these faces I've seen before in politics, just didn't know who they were. All right, let's continue. If Cynthia McKinney is nominated for president by the Green Party, a test for corporate feminists like Gloria Steinem, so concerned about the lack of opportunities for their black sisters, black voters will flock to McKinney by the thousands, which might tip the balance if the contest is close between Miss Clinton and a Republican opponent. Others will leave the line for president on the ballot blank. This rage against the Clintons will go unnoticed by the segregated old corporate media, which has more information about the landscape of Mars than trends in the black, Asian American, and Hispanic communities. They rely upon their handful of colored mind doubles who tell them what they want to hear. They rely upon their handful of colored mind doubles who tell them what they want to hear. Well, say it. Sambos. Yes, men. Modern day Indian scouts. When they're not available, all white panels instruct each other about who is a racist and who is not, how black people feel, how they are going to vote, continuing what some blacks regard as the white intellectual occupation of the black experience, an attitude that dates all the way back to a letter written by Martin Delany to Frederick Douglass in 1863, in which he complained about the favorable treatment Douglass gave to Harriet Beecher Stowe's book Uncle Tom's Cabin while ignoring his Blake or the Huts of America, 1859 to 1862. She cannot speak for us, he wrote. I feel you on that sentiment. And I'm going to take it one further. I feel the same thing happens in regards to other culture black folk. And when I say other culture black folk, because normally when I refer to the term black Americans, I am referring to black people who descend from chattel slavery in the United States. I'm not talking about descendants of Africans in Panama, Belize, motherfreaking Venezuela, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Rwanda. I ain't talking about none of them places. Nigeria, Kenya. I ain't talking about none of them. Because a lot of times when y'all come over here, y'all carry your broken, fallacy-full mentality pertaining to black people. And y'all treat us equivalent to the white people. And then the same white people use y'all as they token black folk. And then they say, hey, American Negroes, this is who y'all need to be like. And it's just like, no, bro. We may look similar on the outside, but nigga, no, culturally we different, okay? Italians and Irish, although look very similar on the outside, different. You ain't blurring those lines, niggas. Don't blur these lines over here. I don't like when y'all speak for us either. Oh, black people feel about this, and then you try to, bring up some of the Jim Crow codes and the motherfucking. You start to talk about some of the experiences that we had with civil rights and black. And a lot of y'all still be across the water over there in UK. And talking on matters you ain't gonna know nothing about. So I put y'all in the same boat as them white people. Y'all shouldn't speak on matters that you don't know. Because you're not gonna catch me talking about the struggles of Africans in London. Nigga, I don't know nothing about it. Culture different, everything. Way of speak, dress, everything. Different. But let's continue. Clinton will still receive some support for some black Democratic loyalists and celebrities, although some of them are beginning to distance themselves, what we see them do now, from the couple after the Iowa and New Hampshire smears against Obama. That's what they do. We your friend until the goings get tough and your name gets smeared. Now, we don't know you until you back in good graces. But a large number of black people who helped elect Clinton twice will defect. They will defect. Representative James E. Clyburn, a black congressman for South Carolina, told the New York Times in January 11, 2008 that he may abandon his neutral stance in his state's primary based in part on comments by Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton. Rodham? Y'all sure she ain't? I don't know. She might have came out the womb destined to be Butch. Rodham? That's her middle name for real? Hillary Rodham Clinton? Anyways, abandoned his neutral stance in his state's primary based in part on comments by Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton about President Lyndon B. Johnson and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He and other blacks interpreted Hillary Clinton's remark about the two as implying that Johnson did more for the cause of civil rights than King, who, like Obama, made great speeches. Johnson, that same nigga that introduced 501c3s to the church with the sole purpose of silencing them. So if you motherfucking take tax exemptions, you can't motherfucking speak on matters, political matters. They motherfucking, you 501c3 holding niggas. Y'all censored. That same Lyndon B. Johnson. So he could be out here sex trafficking and human trafficking people, including children. Sacrificing them, eating them and everything. And then he keeps the church quiet because it's like, you say anything, you lose your status of having tax exemptions. You're going to have to pay state taxes and property taxes and federal taxes and county taxes if you say anything about our political matters. That Lyndon B. Johnson? Let's finish this last page, y'all. We almost done. We done. We're 3 hours in, y'all. Also, one wonders whether Henry Louis Gates Jr., media appointed leader of the talented 10th, a phrase that W.E.B. Du Bois used to appoint the black elite as the true leaders of the Negro masses, an insult to grassroots leaders like Fannie Lou Hamer. I love that lady. Will follow suit. While smearing a number of black male writers as misogynists in the Times and elsewhere when Bill Clinton was caught with his pants down, Gates Jr. said, we will go to the wall for this president. All right, like so. Are the Clintons new in a South where husbands like George Wallace extended their power by getting their wives elected? Extended their power by getting their wives elected? My mama told me. You got to watch out for them powerful men. Because you think that man running it. That woman run that show. It's even been said before women was even more introduced into the space. A lot of our older male presidents, their wives was running the scene. Reagan's wife is alleged to have been running the scenes. Are the Clintons new in the South where husbands like George Wallace extended their power by getting their wives elected? Hardly. Take the Fergusons. In Texas, there was a couple called the Fergusons, affectionately called Ma and Pa Ferguson. Miriam Ferguson was a quiet, private person who preferred to stay home in her big house in Temple, Texas, and take care of her husband, raise her 2 daughters, and tend to her flower garden. But in 1923, she was elected governor of Texas, the first woman governor elected in the United States. I've heard about that. Men hiding behind women, transferring the business and getting that, what is it? That minority stamp. Women-owned minority woman business. Stuff like that. It must be something with funding. Because the power, to just throw somebody in power, like, you got to control them. You're not just going to help somebody get in power knowing good as well that they can just motherfucking usurp authority over you with their little newfound power. Interesting. I'm going to ponder on that a little further. Anyways, but in 1923, she was elected governor of Texas, the first woman governor elected in the United States. Her husband, Jim Ferguson, served 2 terms as governor. But during his second term, he was impeached, which meant he could not run again for public office. So Miriam agreed to run to clear his name and restore the family's honor. She served 2 terms as governor from 1925 to 1927 and from 1933 to 1935. She and her husband became known as Ma and Pa Ferguson. Her campaign slogan was 2 governors for the price of 1. Remind you of anyone? Mr. Raphael. I called you Raphael. Mr. Ishmael. Baby, I love the way you write, man. I love the way you write, man. So make sure y'all tap in with me. I don't know yet. I'm going to change the time to tomorrow. Or change the date to tomorrow. I'm going to aim for tomorrow. We're going to read the first chapter of Affirmative Action Around the World, an empirical study by Mr. Thomas Sowell. Y'all, I'm going to go tend to my pups, and then I got to get ready because it's 2:49, and I got to be there at 3:30. So for those of y'all that tapped in here with me, I love y'all. I appreciate it. You know, make sure you like, comment, share this video amongst other people so these conversations could be discussed. They could be had. Maybe we'll get somewhere once these conversations are had. So I appreciate y'all. Again, tap in with me for the first chapter reading here tomorrow. And feel free to subscribe to my other YouTube channels. The Antithetical Antagonist. It's a podcast channel where I perform mostly interviewing regular folk. You getting regular daily life, information. In addition to that, Tiara the Athlete, where you can find my athletic endeavors posted. So without further ado, I love y'all. God bless. And baby, peace. Because Jesus, man, he's the peace that transcends all understanding. Okay?